I'm Kennedy. I'm one of the chiefs of staff. So we've had a great conference so far, and we're very excited to continue it. So this morning we have Marlins Go Green, and then coming at 9:30 we have the FBI, resume building with Alice Jones at 11:30, and lastly our MBE 101 Shark Tank competitions, which will start at 1 o'clock. So without further ado, Caitlin Deswalt for the Marlins Go Green.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for all being here. I am very excited to give a wonderful presentation to you guys, brought to you by Marlins Go Green, and I'm going to be talking about the complex relationship between profit and our planet. Firstly, who I am. As mentioned before, my name is Caitlin Deswalt. I'm a business and psychology major and a sociology minor. I'm also the Marlins Go Green event coordinator and our compost guardian. You might be wondering why on earth we would need a guardian for the compost bin. But unfortunately, after 30 minutes of first implementing our compost bin, there was already a bunch of trash in it from people mistaking it as a garbage bin. So we implemented a bunch of Marlin Go Green members to help prevent that and educate everybody on how to compost. So you guys may be wondering, how do you compost? I'll happily tell you about that. So what can go in the compost bin? You can put fruit peels, like banana peels or apple cores or things like that, and you can also put vegetables, leftover vegetables without oil or butter on them, and you can also put napkins. But you cannot put fish, meat, oil, or dairy inside. Otherwise that'll attract animals, and that's not really good for our composting. More reasons for why composting is important: it avoids waste outcomes with high emissions. Landfilling food scraps reduces 20 times the CO2 emissions as methane. And when used, compost net emissions become negative. So that's pretty awesome. Moreover, composting increases nutrients in the soil, which helps to grow healthier, more nutritious plants and food. It also increases water holding capacity, which increases soil resiliency to extreme heat and flooding. It also helps increase soil aggregation. Soil aggregation is basically when the soil becomes compact and clumps up so that it can't break apart. And that prevents erosion and runoff, thus protecting and restoring waterways. And normally it takes 1,800 years to build 6 inches of topsoil, but with compost, it only takes 6 months. Moreover, composting sequesters carbon. The world's soil holds 1.5 trillion tons of carbon in the form of organic matter. So by composting, we can help continue to keep carbon down instead of in the air. Just 1 acre amended with compost can sequester up to 75% of cars' annual emissions. Composting also increases crop yield and vegetation, leading to even more carbon sequestering. Also, it helps to build a community of resiliency. Just like Marlins Go Green, we helped educate our community on composting and its impacts on the environment. It can also help with food security, profitable farms, enhanced habitat and biodiversity, and resilient ecosystems. Composting in communities can also lead to local jobs, environmental education, community bonds and safety, physical activity, and healthy diets, social inclusion, and empowerment. So say yes to composting, and please put the composting things in the compost bin. It would make everybody, especially me, really happy. So getting back to who we are, Marlins Go Green. We make strides for awareness and sustainability through education, activism, and volunteer opportunities. So in this picture, you can see, I guess it's on your right, but this is our beautiful president, Cecilia. And this is at our last year's environmental fair on Earth Day, and Cece helped make reusable tote bags. And other events we've done is like biodegradable sun catchers, seen next to Cece. And that was a really fun campus engagement activity we did. We also do volunteering, like with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the oyster bagging, which helps create more oyster reefs and therefore help clean our water as well. We also did other volunteer activities, like on the bottom left, you can see us doing an invasive species removal. Invasive species are really harmful because they take over and don't allow for our native species to grow, which is really harmful for our biodiversity and our ecosystem locally. These are more pictures from our Earth Fair on Earth Day last year. We had recyclable earring making, we had this awesome station that I did of what's it called? Sorry, tie-dyeing. We did tie-dyeing, and then we had seed bombs, and we had a clothing swap where you could bring your old clothing and exchange it for other people's clothing, which is really cool. And then we also had button making to help spread awareness and plant potting. Other events we did is like Jessica Wilson. She educated everybody on what is recyclable and what is not recyclable. And then she did a little game where you had to guess what was recyclable and what wasn't recyclable, and if you got it right, you got candy, which was really cool. And then also in 2019, one of our great achievements was that we got a grant so we can make the rain garden outside of Greer, which was really awesome. So moving on, why the environment is important to businesses. Here are my 2 fun facts for the day. In 2020, the World Economic Forum found that climate-related disasters, climate action failure, and extreme weather poses the most risk to the economy in the next 10 years, more than any other factor. And 215 of the world's largest companies face losing $1 trillion from climate-related impacts in the next 5 years, from 2019 to 2024. While the potential value of climate-related activities is 7 times the cost to achieve them, and that's from the CDP. So moving on. Other important reasons why the environment is important. It helps access to resources. Conserving resources is essential to making sure they're available. If we don't have any resources to use in our products, then we can't really make products, and we can't really make anything and make money. Regulatory compliances. Businesses must maintain compliance with regulation in order to maintain reputation and operational privileges. If we're not following regulatory compliance, then our business is most likely to get shut down and other things like that. And you'll probably get bad press, and that's not good. It also helps with operational efficiency. The more efficient uses of materials, the less has to be used, and therefore it benefits the environment, and the less we have to use in the environment, again, the more resources we have in the long term. So, moving more. So, another reason why the environment is really important in recent years is ESG investing. Investors are looking at the environment and what businesses are doing to impact it. So this year I actually was able to participate in a sustainable business competition with a bunch of my fellow classmates, like Jessica Wilson, you guys probably know Rowan Stewart, and Gavin and Andrew Stern. And it was a really immersive experience of how to learn how to choose a company. We choose a US-based traded company, and with that we looked at their ESG report and we came up with a shareholder engagement strategy and able to better their business practices. So with that, in 2021, more than a quarter of global investors say ESG is central to their investment approach. Also included with the ESG report is, when you're narrowing in on the environment, their sustainability report. It's the disclosure of communication of environmental, social, and government ESG goals. Harvard actually gives a nice little way to how to make the best sustainability reporting standards. So if you're more interested in that, you can check that out. But keep moving along. So benefits of sustainable business practices that you can incorporate in your businesses to make your ESG score higher and make you less at risk for things involving that is cost savings. With sustainable business practices, you can, again, minimize resource consumption and long-term risk reduction. It also helps your brand differentiate from the other brands because people nowadays are looking for brands that are environmentally friendly. It also attracts investors, like I was saying, with the ESG and your sustainability report. It also, again, helps for innovation and efficiency. Sustainable practices are innovative, and can speed up and optimize operations. So here are some top companies that actually have ESG incorporated. Like almost all companies have ESG incorporation, and on their website there's probably a thing that talks about sustainability. So just some examples, like you can look at the Apple Environmental Social Governance Report, and they highlighted things such as carbon neutral for corporate emissions since 2020. And also that more than double renewable energy is in their supply chain. And they also have reduced overall emissions by 40% and avoided over 23 million metric tons of emissions across all scopes. And down here, this is Sustainalytics. There's actually multiple websites that rate the ESG rating and compare them against other companies. So investors can also compare you along that lines. This is another company, a little different because they're an oil company. It's called Saudi Aramco. They're Aramco, sorry. But they also have sustainability things on their website, but as you can see on Sustainalytics, they're at severe risk because of the industry they're in. Being oil, like, you probably know, but oil isn't very environmentally friendly as it pollutes our planet, and it's, yes, not fun. And just one more example I have of Microsoft, which is basically the same thing as Apple, but I just wanted to give another example of companies and using ESG. So, getting to it, profit and individualism. So in America, we are very individualistic. Individualism is the belief that the good society is one in which individuals are let free to pursue their private satisfactions, independently of others, a pattern of thinking that emphasizes individual achievement and self-fulfillment. So that becomes pretty problematic when the planet Earth doesn't really have anyone to stand up for it. And if we're looking out for ourselves, who's looking out for the planet? So the negative effects of businesses on the planet. The exact amount of industrial waste is unclear, but some estimates go as high as 7.6 billion tons per year. With deforestation, that can actually affect businesses as well, and up to 906 billion in annual turnover could be at risk. This is because a lot of businesses use paper and wood products in their products. For example, like if you go to McDonald's, even they have paper. Like look at the thing your McDouble comes in. And also overuse of natural resources. On the next slide, I'll talk more about the overuse of natural resources as us as a whole, but resources typically are being used faster than they can be replenished. Carbon emissions from industries make up 25% of 2020 total CO2 emissions in the US, which is pretty crazy. Also, chemical use. Chemical use with industries expelling chemicals, it can get inside humans and bodies and affects all of us. And also habitat destruction, like deforestation, chemical use, and all of these things where we just neglect our environment. A lot of animals and habitats are getting destroyed, and that's not good. So moving on to depletion of natural resources. With 7.88 billion people on Earth, we are consuming a lot of resources. Because of that, 44.9% of our coral reefs are left, which is less than half. And 1.8 is the number of planet Earths we would need to provide resources and absorb all of our waste within our current state. And I don't think that's really possible because we only have one Earth. So also, 8,171,000 hectares of forests are being cut down or burnt. And 24 years and 255 days is the time we have left until the end of seafood, which is pretty crazy. And a total of 25 yes, that number that I can't say, extracted from Earth globally this year. So the CDP. The CDP is something that investors use to go over their effects on the climate. So 246 investors with over 136 trillion in assets requested companies to disclose through CDP on climate change, water security, and forests. 18,700 plus companies reported through CDP on climate change, water security, and forests. So this company kind of just endorses that the companies are doing good on the environment side, which is a very good benefit for a company on their side if they're affiliating with this company. For example, CDP estimates that Ford has an estimated future financial impact of 11 million from increases impact on natural disasters along their supply chain. And transparency is a really big thing because investors want you to be honest about the resources that you're consuming and the effect you're having on the environment. And if you're hiding that, it's not very good. So moving on to the tragedy of the commons. So I would like, you may have heard of this already, but the tragedy of the commons. So basically everybody in here just pretend like you're a cow farmer. So all of us, we are sharing one field. And as the savvy business people we are, you probably are going to think to have the most cows possible in our field. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work because we only have so many resources. And if all of our cows are eating up all the resources, then we're probably not going to have any resources left. And if we're not being accountable for those resources that we use, because the effect we're having affects the whole group and that it doesn't really affect us as an individual as much, then we're not going to be as accountable. So our cows aren't going to be as happy. So, this is just a little more in depth because this can be applied to other things such as greenhouse gas regulation, as businesses are implementing a lot of greenhouse gases, but it doesn't really impact them individually and come back to bite them in their own butt. It just kind of affects us all, and it's hard to hold them accountable. But if we, as individuals, account ourselves, then we can help potentially reduce this. So this leads into individual profit versus world profit, because we are mostly inclined to go for our own profits, unfortunately. But if we were to think about something other than ourselves, there are lots of community benefits to why an environment could be nice. It could include safer outdoor environments. Collaborative efforts to eliminate harmful waste can make outdoor areas safer, like no trash for children to get into and no trash for animals to get into. It can also improve health, reduce the risk of diseases from bacteria, and we also depend on our environment for energy and materials. It can also help with cleaner water quality, increased access to healthy food, and cleaner air quality, which can all make our lives a little bit better. Moreover, I would like to talk about things like forest bathing. That's something that everybody in here can do to help with their health. It reduces blood pressure, alleviates negative emotions, alleviates stress, decreases blood cortisol, and increases immune function, and improves mental health. So over this J term, I actually took a class called Humans in the Environment, and I was able to do a volunteer thing at Virginia State University where we helped do a forest trail cleanup, and they gave us a lot of good information about forest bathing, and it's really interesting because it's actually something that came up it's been used a lot throughout history. Like, we as people just were outside all the time, and it was really helpful. But in 1980, Japan coined the term Shirin Yoko, or forest bath, to capture the spirit of this therapy. So basically, it involves you going out in nature and just taking in nature with all your senses. So breathing, seeing, hearing, and just feeling. And things like that disconnect you from your devices and your cell phones and other distractions and can make you mindfully concentrate on what's around you. There's also further evidence that suggests that a chemical called fungicide, which is actually from plants. So plants emit this, and we breathe it in, and it helps us increase our amount of white blood cells, which is really nice because that helps us fight diseases and kills invading pathogens. And there was a study that compares the level of there was one study that compared the level of killer cells, which are the white blood cells, in people's blood. So in one group, they were sent to go on a walk through the woods, and the other group was sent to go through a walk through an urban area. The group that went through an urban area actually had 50% less white blood cells than those who walked through the environmental area. So nature can kind of help you. And also the growing need to reconnect with nature. 54% of the world's population resides in urban environment. And in 2050, it's estimated that 66% of the world's population will live in an urban environment and will spend 93% of their time indoors, which is kind of sad because you can't really benefit from the effects of nature if you're inside. And you can't really have a relationship with nature or really know the importance of nature if you're not connecting with it. Another thing I'd like to talk about is urban food forests. So urban food forests are kind of a new thing that are coming up. And they're really interesting because they function around this idea of a permaculture in the city. Permaculture is basically the idea of an educational space that allows for biodiversity while providing food for the community. And it basically runs like a typical forest, but it also provides food for people. So it allows for biodiversity, stability, and resilience. basically have a natural ecosystem by providing for the people. Permaculture also includes ethics such as earth care. Steward the earth and natural resources. For example, Native Americans live by the principle that in every decision they must consider how it will affect 7 generations in the future. They don't just care about themselves, they care about the people after them and the animals and the planet after them. So by building a resilient and regenerative system, they can help ensure that. It also includes the ethics of people care, nourishing and educating and protecting people. And it opposes the way that some large-scale farms exploit migrant workers. It also involves the ethic of fair share. When they have a surplus, they don't just keep it for themselves. They give to people in need who actually need it and will consume it instead of letting it go to waste. So, how can we help? By just looking around and by educating and talking about the environment. I think we can raise awareness together. And we can show our environment the more that we love and care about it, the more that we can make it better. And also through businesses. By increasing transparency and accountability, we can help recover our resources. And by supporting sustainable innovation and development, we can help improve the future. So if you guys want to come check out any of our Marlins Go Green events and be involved with this on campus, that would just make everything more exciting and more inclusive and make us all happier together and hopefully help our planet too. And also I just want to talk about just environmentally sustainable things that you can do, like thrifting. Like there's a lot of clothing waste and there's a lot of abuse in the fast fashion industry, and I just want to give myself a shout out because this whole outfit is thrifted. And there's just little simple things you can do, and if you really want to get involved, you really can help. But thank you. That was my presentation.
Spring Business Conference, and I'd like to welcome our two very special guests, Special Agent Gaynor and Mrs. Boone, who are going to talk to us about the FBI and what they do and how they help protect all of us.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I hope I'm going to be loud enough. I don't like to stay in one place. So if you need me to move closer to a mic, let me know. And otherwise, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Brooke Gaynor. I'm a special agent with the FBI, and I've been with the FBI for about 17 years. And I was just having this conversation with someone. This wasn't my dream job, but it has been a dream of a job. I can't imagine doing anything else. Everybody's career in the FBI is different. Everybody takes a different path. So if you're a criminal justice major or a business major or a science major or a music major or a fine arts major, there still may be something in the FBI for you. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to you about some opportunities that may be available to you sooner than you think. Okay, so one golden rule is that you should never go work for an organization if you don't know something about who they are, right? Who they are, what they stand for. So I have a degree in journalism and an MBA, so I'm coming at this from kind of the who, what, when, where, why, how. So who are we? Who is the FBI? Let me take a second. I want to hear you guys holler out some of your favorite FBI movies or TV shows. Criminal Minds, okay, that's a favorite. What else? Oh, come on. What? I'm sorry?
Night Agent.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. But I mean, I'm from like the old generation of like X-Files and Silence of the Lambs. What else? Do you guys actually watch? Like, there are 3 separate shows called FBI. Really surprised nobody said that. I always get at least one person who says NCIS, and I'm like, no, that's not us. But we play a big role in pop culture. If you watch those shows, by the way, no one ever says Miss Congeniality. Tell me you guys have seen that movie. Right, thank you. My personal favorite, although obviously that's not normally how a career is going to go. But if you watch those shows, you probably have in mind something that you think that we do, which is run around with guns, shoot a lot, yell at people, and point at things. And that's not the day-to-day life of an agent. I can honestly say I have run after someone in heels, but I've never shot anybody. And I hope that that continues for the rest of my career. However, what we do as an organization is value and guide ourselves by our core values, which are what you see here. And I think that everyone expects that we have integrity and rigorous obedience to the Constitution, but I think ones that might surprise some people are things like respect and compassion and fairness. We need people who can talk and communicate with other people with dignity and with respect. That's how we do the job that we do. What do we do? Well, we just said it a second ago, right? We protect the people within the United States and our communities. We uphold the Constitution of the United States. That's our oath. When we get hired, we raise our right hand. We say, I solemnly swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Our oath is to the Constitution. It's not to an administration. It's not to a political ideology. It's not to an individual. It is to the Constitution that overrides everything. So what have we done lately? Here's just a quick snapshot of some recent headlines. COVID-19 loan fraud, human trafficking, federal official taking bribes, so corruption, serial armed robbery. And that's just a tiny piece of it. So we are actually one of the smallest offices here in Norfolk in the FBI, the 3rd smallest office. We punch way, way above our weight. So who, what, when? I don't need a slide for when. 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, like Waffle House, right? We are there when we are needed to be there, every day, all day. Where do we work? So we're everywhere we need to be, all right? We are across the country in what we call our headquarters field offices. We also have resident agencies, and there are 350, so too many to put on the map, but It looks like there's a giant black hole up there with Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, but we actually have those resident agencies there, right? So those are managed out of the Salt Lake City office, which is SU up there. So we are in every state. We are also in 63 other countries, where we do have limited jurisdiction, but we work very closely with our international partners. Okay, who, what, when, where, now we're on the why.
911, what's your emergency?
My daughter, Phoenix. She's missing.
When did you last see her?
Yesterday morning, she left for school but never came home.
Okay. What is your phone number in case we get disconnected?
703-555.
What did you do? I have my own money. Put it back. It'll get us both in trouble. Fine. Don't let him see it. Better give me the money.
It was awkward. I mean, they seemed scared.
So what made you suspicious?
Like the older one was really jittery, and the younger one, I'm guessing maybe 13 or 14, but she was dressed like an adult.
Hey, I got it.
They're all actually real FBI employees,
We can't make her out. Let's run the girl's photo, and can you show me some video from outside?
It's an SUV. I can't make out the plate.
It's not what happens on the
And we got the video from the gas station this morning.
Okay, I'll get on that.
Thank you.
Mike, we've got a hit on the missing girl.
So has she ever run away before?
Yes, a few times.
And in those few times, was law enforcement ever involved?
Yeah, they were involved a couple of times.
Have you guys ever noticed any adult males communicating with her through social media or her regular cell phone?
No, not that we know of.
Hey, Mike,
What's it?
check us out. A surveillance camera at a nearby business captured her SUV and license plate number.
Lucy Teresa Novikova.
She doesn't match anyone at the gas station.
Ip shitel chob shas pujiva.
She bought the car for her granddaughter and says the boyfriend uses it.
Can I get their names and their cell phone numbers?
She's mobile de teléfono.
Yo.
I'm going to need to get your permission to search your vehicle. Is that okay?
Did you see this?
We pulled this up on Bobby.
Did you get any phone numbers on it?
I'm working it.
Yeah, so right there, they're talking about roses. That's Just give me 1 second.
Bobby's criminal history. It includes weapons violations and an assault on a police officer. His IP address places him at this motel.
I guess I was just punched.
This is Jennifer. She's our victim specialist.
Hey girls, want something hot to drink?
Yeah, you must be cold.
Why don't we go inside and get you some warm clothes, okay? Serial number HSA 764.
So that's why we do it. We do it to help people who can't help themselves, to protect people who can't protect themselves, to answer for people who can't answer for themselves. And that's minors, that's victims of healthcare fraud, that's senior citizens living in a nursing home. All of those, any of those can be vulnerable populations. Everybody's why is a little different if you talk to agents and people that work for the Bureau. But by and large, that theme is going to show up for every single one of them. So I want to make things better. I want to help people when they need help. And I want to make things better for my family and for y'all's families. How do we do it? With a lot of people. We have 31,000 employees, which surprises a lot of people, by the way. Of course, I've given away part of the punchline, but how many special agents do you think there are in the Bureau? Let me fire a guess. Quiet crowd. So I'm going to say, so about a third of that 31,000, right? So between 12 and 13,000 special agents. The New York City Police Department has about 120,000 police officers. So that gives you guys an idea of just how small we are, but how big our impact is. We have over 500 positions in the Bureau. You saw some of them in the previous video, and every single person who was identified as an FBI employee was actually that employee. So the surveillance specialist, which by the way is an entry-level position, we hire a lot of people straight out of college for that. Staff operations specialist, operational support technician, all of those are really good positions if you're just interested in working for the Bureau. This is just a very short list of everybody that probably would have helped on a case like that, right? So special agents, IT specialists, you saw that. We saw everything down to, so human resource specialists, they would still be involved because they're going to be managing a lot of things from the field office level. We have psychologists who are often taking the role of the victim specialist. And then we have things like electronics engineers, nurses, chemists, computer science. We have graphic artists. We need graphic artists in the bureau. We need all of those things. That's how we do what we do. So what kind of opportunities might be available for you? So we have 2 programs designed for folks who are either still in college or getting ready to graduate, right? And one of those is our honors internship program. So it is for undergraduate and students continuing in a graduate program, all right? So it's 10 weeks during the summer, which is paid. I know it says paid, but I'm going to emphasize paid, because a paid internship, first of all, is a pretty big deal, but paid government internship, I don't even know how we made that happen. But what's really amazing about this is if you come to work for us as an intern through the summer, you can continue to work throughout the rest of the school year as long as, bless you, as long as you're able to work for 16 hours a month. That's it. And the reason we want folks to do that is because when you come on as an intern, you're a full-time bureau employee, and you have a top secret clearance. If you continue to work through the school year and you get those 16 hours a month, you keep your top secret clearance as long as you're a bureau employee. Now, if you're not able to do so, that's okay. It's still great to come and do the internship. But we have had individuals who did the internship, kept working throughout the school year, came back the next summer as an intern, just continued on in that employment, and then when they graduated, we converted that to a full-time position. You are able to, you can apply for the internship in any one of those 56 field offices or one of our divisions at headquarters. We don't pay for housing, unfortunately, but it is a paid internship, so there's kind of the balance there. But if you have an interest in something particular, consider one of the headquarters divisions where you're going to be doing much more specific work. For example, you might be interested in IT. Consider one of those divisions at headquarters, and you're probably going to get a lot more specific hands-on experience. If you go work for a field office, like in the Norfolk office, we love our interns, and we try to give them as much experience as possible across the board. So while we're never going to put an intern in a position that is going to make you potentially a witness, we don't ever want to put you in a position where you're going to have to be on the stand, but we will, you guys may be running some data based on a lot of our casework. You might be in our operations center where you're taking calls from the public, where you have an eye on everything that's going on in the field office. We will provide you with whatever information or training you're interested in as far as the evidence response team. You have access to our tactical operations folks, all of those things. You may end up working in a resident agency if that's something that's interesting to you, but those opportunities might be a little more narrow just because those are very small offices. Or like I said, you can work at our main headquarters in DC. Now, the caveat here is the application timing and process, and this comes up again. Just so you guys are aware, the application opens for a very, very narrow range of time in mid-August, mid to late August, and it's open through usually like the second week of September, and it's for the following summer. So you really need to be a rising sophomore or a rising junior in order to be eligible. Otherwise, once you graduate, you can't come in and be an intern that next summer. And the reason why the application is so early for the internship the next summer is because we have to get you through a background process. Because again, you guys are going to be full-time bureau employees. You're going to go through the same background that the rest of us go through, which actually does include a polygraph, and we'll talk about that too. So you have to be a U.S. citizen. You must be a full-time undergraduate student or a full-time graduate student. And then you have to have a 3.0 at the time that you apply, and you have to maintain that throughout the course of the internship. And then, like I said, you're going to have to pass our background check, drug test, and polygraph. Has anyone here ever taken a polygraph? Just out of curiosity. I mean, most college students haven't. No kidding. Oh, okay. It is a really uncomfortable experience. It's very uncomfortable. But it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. not the kind of polygraph that you guys see in like movies and TV. It's not criminal, right? It's not investigative. Nobody's well, I don't know. I've heard Secret Service is pretty brutal, so I won't say that it's not adversarial. Ours is not. Ours is not, because we expect that by the time you make it to that part of the process, you're not going to try to deceive us at that point. And you don't pass, and this is a little secret sauce kind of moment here. It's not about passing or failing the polygraph. It's not about lying or telling the truth. It's about trying to be deceptive. So I'll give you an example. I had one applicant, he was a special agent applicant. He made it almost all the way through the process. We got to our conversation before the polygraph. And he said, well, the question is, have you ever, because we're going to look at this too, ever taken a prescription drug that was not prescribed to you? And he said, well, I did take one of my mom's Lortabs. Okay, tell me about the circumstances. Injury, wanted to know how it felt, thought it might help, etc. Okay, great. So you took one of your mom's Lortabs. Okay. So he gets into the polygraph and clearly is struggling with one of the questions in particular. Hey, tell you what, why don't you talk to me about this? Because I feel like you're having some issues with this particular question. Well, I did take one of my mom's Lortabs, but I also finished the rest of the bottle. So did he tell me the truth? Yeah, he did. He told me the truth when he first told me that he took one of his mom's Lortabs. But was he trying to be deceptive? Yes. He was trying to deceive me and the polygrapher into thinking that that was it, and that was the only thing that he had done. He knew that he was trying to squeak by being able to say, yeah, I totally told the truth. So that's the difference, right, between being truthful and being deceptive. You're all in college. Don't tell me that you've never tried that trick on your parents before. I did it when I was in school. So it depends on the group I'm talking to, right? Sometimes I can tell folks who are a little older who have kids, like, if you don't want your kids pulling that on you, like, don't try it with us. If you would do it to your parents, this is not the place to try it. But we also don't call most of you guys at this point are pretty close to adulthood, if not already adults. We don't call your families and say, hey, do you know what Kennedy said in her polygraph? Are you aware of this? No, that's on you guys to manage that relationship. So it does stay confidential. So the other program that we have, if you guys are going to be graduating, or any of you guys, will you be seniors next year? Who's a junior now? Will be a senior next year. Okay, a few of you. So you may be interested in our collegiate hiring initiative. So this is a program for recent graduates and folks within 24 months past graduation, okay? We will look for different skill sets to match up with different jobs that are open. So let me explain that one more time. What you do with the CHI is you essentially give us your resume and some more information, and then when the collegiate hire opens, we will pick through your resume and see what skills you might have that match some jobs that are open. Because they might be things you wouldn't think to look for, right? So we have 500 positions, right? And a lot of them have job titles that might not be familiar to you, like program analyst, administrative specialist, human resources specialist. I'm not sure what a government information specialist is, but we have them in different locations. And so the dates up here, this was our last CHI. We did have it open, but you see how short that time frame is? Because we maxed out. So it was open from March 6th to March 10th. We are hoping to open again in the late summer, early fall, roughly the same time as the internship. And again, you won't look for a specific position. And my advice on this to a lot of folks is a lot of people have an interest in something specific. Psychology, victim services, behavioral analysis, special agent, IT specialist. Be open to positions that might help you develop some additional skills that aren't necessarily what you think you want to do. There are a lot of jobs in the FBI you don't come into directly. All right, so for example, the special agent position, you have to have 2 years of professional work experience minimum. The more realistic qualification is that you're going to have 5 to 7 years of experience. The average age of a new special agent is 31 years old. And when I talk to high school groups, their faces just fall. They're like crestfallen, like, that's so old. I was average age. I was 31 when I came into the Bureau. And it was like my 3rd career, maybe. So special agent may be something you're interested in, and that's awesome. But Keep in mind that's definitely going to be at a minimum a second career. So we still have a lot to offer if you're interested when you get close to graduating. What are we looking for? Just told you about some of the great opportunities, but what do we feel like you need to have? For most jobs, entry level, you don't need a specific degree. I don't care what your degree is. Again, with some exceptions like computer science, and maybe hard sciences if you're interested in the lab. But for the most part, these entry level, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have any law enforcement experience, but what you do need are a specific set of, a very particular set of skills. You're gonna have to have communication skills because you're gonna go through an interview process, all right? And we really want people with critical thinking, problem-solving skills. Your background is gonna have to meet our suitability standards. And we do want to see experiences and skills that you've developed up to now that reflect what we call our core competencies. And this is what they are. I didn't realize it was one at a time. So we want people who can show us examples of times you've collaborated and worked with other people, because we already showed you, right? We don't do anything by ourselves. Nobody does anything by themselves. Examples of leadership. And keep in mind, this does not always mean being in charge of something, or president of something, or captain of something. Sometimes being a leader means you identified something and you sought to create or identify a solution. And you said, you know what, I see something here that can be improved, and you go for it. That's a great example of leadership, and it's not necessarily reflected in a title. Flexibility and adaptability, stuff changes fast. Stuff happens really fast. In fact, in that case example of the young girl, you saw how fast stuff was moving, right? Flexibility, adaptability, interpersonal ability. Again, we don't do anything on our own. Even if you're not the leader of something, do you still work well with everybody? Initiative, because in a lot of cases, even if you're an intern, independent work, you might be told, hey, can you do this for me? And we want to see you just go do it. Problem solving and, good judgment. Good judgment is really, really important. A lot of times judgment boils down to just being willing to do the right thing. What is the hard thing? If that means owning up to a mistake, then own it, okay? If it means choosing a harder path, but it's the right path, then choose it. We've all made mistakes. Perfection was not one of our core values. We don't expect that. We just expect that when it comes to making a hard decision, you choose the right thing and not the easy thing. Organizing and planning. I feel pretty confident that everybody in this room has a good example of having to organize and plan something. A project, an event. And then communication, now that's both person to person and written communication, right? Because our written reports are really critical to what we do. To be able to write well and be able to comfortably talk face-to-face with other folks. So that's the skill set that we want, but you are also going to have to meet our suitability standards. So we are going to do a pre-employment poly. We talked a little bit about that. We're going to do a really comprehensive background investigation. So this means we're going to talk to neighbors, we're going to talk to professors, and we're going to talk to managers and employers. We're going to apply a little more scrutiny than we normally would, than private industry normally would. But again, the reason is, when you're a bureau employee, I don't care if you're an intern or a staff operations specialist or an agent, intelligence analyst, whatever. If you come in as an intern, you will have access to the same systems as everybody else. Don't be that National Guardsman, right, who just took a whole bunch of secret and dangerous information and posted it out there. You'll have access to all of that. The same information that he had, you guys would have access to. We need to trust that you won't do that you will safeguard it, that you won't be reckless with it. So that includes even making a mistake like, oops, here was a top secret ops plan or whatever, and I accidentally left it on top of my car, and drove off with it. So that's the responsibility and the safeguards and so forth. But then the other side of that is, look, in the event that you are exposed to something that puts you in a position to be a witness, you have to be unassailable. Your credibility has to be airtight and unassailable. And so that's why we just expect that you guys will meet the same standards as everybody else. Because again, your access is exactly the same. And you'll talk about things that you won't be able to talk about with your friends. It just depends on where you are and what you're working. But when I was working Russian counterintelligence during the 2016 election, I had an intern on my squad. I wonder what he's doing now. It'll be 25 years before, well, a little less, but it'll be about 20 years before he can talk about any of that. Totally worth it though. So we're also going to talk to you about your drug usage. I say misuse of prescription drugs. That's where we get into taking things that aren't prescribed for you. We get that there may be times you take something for the purpose for which it's intended, but one of the things we see most often with interns and college folks is marijuana use and an Adderall. So just keep that in mind. You may be within our policy. We may still say, yeah, you know what, we can't take the risk. So for example, you may have zero drug usage. You may have no issues as far as work history and reliability, and your teachers all love you, but you've got 15 speeding tickets. Might have a question about some of your decision making and judgment, and so we might still decide that you're outside of suitability standards. So if you're interested in applying for any of this, you'll apply at fbijobs.gov, and I do have a whole lot of material on the table over there. Most of it has the web address on there. So you'll submit your application, and then if we call you for an interview, then we're going to see examples of your communication skills, and you're going to talk about examples of all those other core competencies. Then you're going to do, it's a government form, it's called an SF-86. It's basically like investigating your own history. You're going to put every address you've ever lived at, all of your foreign travel, your relatives, and a lot of your other history, because that feeds into your polygraph exam. And then your background investigation will kick off, assuming that we do not see any deception on the polygraph. Your background will take about 6 to 8 months, and then you will join us or join whatever field office you've applied for and begin your internship. So I share with different groups how we handle that interview part. And again, if you're ever interested in being a Bureau employee, even whether now or in the future, it doesn't matter who you go work for, this is actually really good to keep in mind, okay? We're not gonna ask you, hey, remember when you were a barista at Starbucks? Tell me about a time you dealt with, or tell me what that job was like. Tell me what you did on a day-to-day basis as an accounting assistant with Netman. But what I might ask you is something performance-based, like, hey, that time when you were a barista, tell me about a time you dealt with a really difficult customer. Or tell me about a time you had to organize and plan an event in a really short time frame. How did you go about that? So we're going to ask those performance-based questions, but they are going to be based on those core competencies, and those are listed on the website. We use the STAR format, which is situation, task, action, and result. So again, I was an instructor at in a college of business at Idaho State University, and we tried our best to prepare the students for when they graduated, and this is actually something we encouraged them to do there as well. Situation, action, task may or may not always fit, but always remember situation, action, result. And here's something that a lot of people don't think about. A bad result is still valuable and something you can still talk about. So if you're doing situation, action, and the result was, and you know what, I didn't get that job, or I failed at that particular project, but here's the secret, right? Follow that up with, but here's what I learned from it. Here's what I learned, and here's what I would have done differently. Because what that shows us is a growth mindset. It shows us that flexibility and adaptability. So, ooh, now you've hit more than one competency in the same question. So even though we might have designed it for collaboration, now you're giving us a little more, right? Like, you know what, it didn't work out the way that I thought, didn't go like I planned, here's what happened, here's what I learned from it, here's what I would do differently. So we say use the best example of each skill. Like, you don't have to pick something that didn't work on purpose, but if that's your best example, then use it. And use examples from all of your experiences. Don't ever underestimate everything else that you do outside of a job or the classroom. Do you play on an intramural team? That's a great experience. Do you volunteer somewhere? That's a great experience too. maybe some of you were in the position I was in before college, and you babysat for someone on a regular basis. And there was a time when, I don't know, the kid got themselves into a little trouble or something to that effect. Those are great examples too. So don't ever pull from everything that you've done. All right, so real quickly, I do have to talk about, maybe this should be further up front, like the things that disqualify you automatically from bureau employment. Again, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you cannot be convicted of a felony. Chances are, if you have committed one, we're probably going to have issue with that too. But if you're convicted of a felony, you cannot come work for us. Some of our white collar, and they actually turned this into a show, right? What was the show? I can't remember, where the guy had been convicted, and then so in the show the FBI hired him because, well, you know, he would know like how criminals think and how they do things. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. They did actually bring that guy as a consultant, but not as a full-time employee. What's that?
Maybe it was Psych. No, that was New York.
Oh no, but that was a great show. Psych. You guys like Psych? I don't. Blacklist. Thank you. Blacklist. That's like one of my mom's favorites, and I have to have a conversation with her regularly about how that's just not going to happen. But yes, thank you. Yeah. No, we may. Frank Abagnale was the fellow in Catch Me If You Can. So so he can be a consultant, but he can never come work for us full time. Blacklist would never happen because I think he's actually a full time employee. So anyway, just don't commit felonies. I mean, maybe that's just the easiest thing to go with here. You cannot have violated our drug policy, and I will spend a minute on that. No engagement in prostitution or any commercial sex act, even if it's legal, when you did it and where you did it. And that's just a suitability standard established by our director, and that's a red line. You also cannot have willfully engaged in any activity designed to overthrow the government by force. In fact, we're very busy prosecuting a lot of those folks right now. And then the last four there really is just, I'm going to simplify it. If you owe the government money, don't ask the government to pay your salary, right? So don't default on a government-insured student loan. You can have student loans, we get that. Just be current on them. And then child support, income taxes, and then if you're male, you have to register with the Selective Service. Okay, the drug policy. Now, by the time some of you may be interested in applying, this could have changed again, because it does change a lot, because we're trying our best to work within sort of new guidelines and changes that are occurring nationwide. You know, we get it, a lot of laws are changing, but for us, we still do at least expect that you will not have used any marijuana or THC derivative within 1 year of the application. Which means if you decide to apply in August of this year, you will not have used anything since August of last year. CBD is up there also, and I know CBD oil is kind of a big thing right now, but the reason that we don't make an exception for CBD is because you can still fail a drug test because of whatever percentage you've either absorbed transdermally or you've ingested. And if you fail a drug test, then it's a failed drug test. And we can't distinguish between whether you fail it because it was marijuana or because it was CBD. So we just recommend folks like, hey, just stay away from it if this is something that's interesting to you. Anabolic steroids only by prescription and only in rare circumstances. No other illegal drugs within the last 10 years. That's any illegal drug. That's puffing, that's mushrooms, obviously heroin, meth, crack, all of that. And you cannot have been part of the drug trade at all. So that's sort of the exception even to that 1 year rule. No trafficking, no selling, no manufacturing, no transporting. And then we already we sort of touched on this one. You can't use prescription drugs that aren't prescribed to you. Conditions just means that's one we can talk about, depending on the circumstances. So again, even if you are technically in compliance, we may still determine that your use falls outside of what we would consider our suitability standards. So the dates, okay. Again, for the internship application, late August through mid-September. I don't have exact dates yet, but just check the website from time to time because it will be posted. I have up there the dates for this year's summer internship, so you have an idea of what that time frame is like. And then if you're interested in the collegiate hiring initiative, for that one, you can actually join what we call our talent network. So that means putting in your resume, putting in some information, and then you'll get alerts when different opportunities show up, when they open up. So I always recommend to folks, hey, join the talent network if you're interested. There's the application process. And then I just went through a lot of things that make a job at the FBI hard to get, and it is, but it's so worth it. We do hard things, but we do great things. And we do things that we hope at the end of it make people's lives and communities better. So that's me. I am currently our applicant coordinator, and you can email me anytime at norfolkapplicants@fbi. Okay, you may just want to you can put in there, hey, you were at Virginia Wesleyan. It usually takes me a couple of days, but I get back to everybody. You can call me at that number. That's our main switchboard. And then that's our website. So I think a little longer than I expected. I'm sorry about that, because my favorite part is when you guys have questions. And I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have about the job. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Would you please talk about Missouri Miracle?
Okay, Missouri Miracle. And this goes back to one of the very first slides that I brought up, where I talked about our core values. So I was a brand new agent. I'd been in the Bureau for about 3 months, and I was assigned to the St. Louis office. Worst weather of any place I've ever lived in my life. It was January 2007. It was about 30, like mid-30s. It was raining. It was cold. It was miserable. It was a Friday afternoon. Earlier in the week, a young fellow, 13-year-old boy named Ben Omby, had been abducted. We were asked for assistance, mainly because we can help locals with resources that they don't have themselves. So bodies, our evidence response team, we can contribute all of those when we're asked on a local basis for assistance. So they did. So that case had been going on for a week. I was assigned to a white collar squad. I was working complex financial crimes. But at some point, everybody, it's again, medium-sized to small office, everybody's kind of involved. It's Friday afternoon, mid-afternoon, most people are thinking about the weekend going home, the weather sucks. Somebody comes around the corner to my squad and says, hey, ASAC needs 2 people, Assistant Special Agent in charge, needs 2 people to go just provide some cover. They're doing an interview somewhere out in Kirkwood. I don't know anything about it, but here's the info go. So my training agent, who was like 2 years away from retirement, he stood up without hesitation and he said, I'll go. I will never forget that as long as I am in the Bureau or whatever career after that, because he didn't have to do that. No one expected him to fill that role at that hour in that weather on a Friday. I'm brand new. I know I'm going. So I said, of course, I'm going to. So he gets in his car, I get in mine, and we go over to a pizza parlor in Kirkwood, Missouri called Emo's Pizza. So we get there, and my training agent calls me from his car, and he says, all right, here's what's going on. So Tina and Lynn, 2 spectacular agents, one of them was our polygrapher, they're over there in that car, and they're interviewing the manager of the pizza parlor. At the time, I didn't know how any of this had transpired. All I know is I'm just providing cover in case, something breaks weird. So I'm sitting there, and an hour goes by, and one of the agents comes flying out of the car where they were interviewing this fellow. And she says, she's on a phone, and she said, I see her mouth the word, he's got both boys. Earlier in the week, I had heard people talk about a kidnapping that had happened 4 years earlier. People were just saying, wow, it's like the same area. That's kind of weird. The kid's name was Sean Hornbeck. He'd never been recovered. So when Tina came flying out of the car saying he's got both boys, Jim knew exactly, my training agent, knew exactly what it meant. And I didn't know right away. But he calls me, he says, all right, here's what's gonna happen. So there were 2 agents who were already sitting on the manager's apartment, because at that point, and I'll tell you why in a second, he was already kind of a suspect. So Tina and Lynn were with Michael Devlin, that was the kidnapper. So Jim in his car and me in my car, Tina and Lynn with the suspect, we go convoying over to his apartment. I'm still brand new, and I'm like, I am just doing what I'm told to do, but whatever's happening is big. We get to his apartment. Lynn, the polygrapher, pulls a few of us aside. She says, here's how this is gonna go down. Think about those core competencies, right? Well, flexibility, adaptability, organization, and planning. She's like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let Devlin go to the door. We're gonna be there with him, but we're gonna let him make eye contact with the boys and say, the police are here, just do what they tell you to do, it's gonna be okay. And then she says, then you, me, and Derek, I want you to yank him back and get the cuffs on him. So that's what we did. Go to the door, opens the door, he makes contact. I see the 2 boys sitting in there. We pulled Devlin back. He was so big, we had to use 2 sets of handcuffs. Big guy. So we hooked him up and took him to one of the vehicles. So first Ben comes out, and he's in like a thin little t-shirt and shorts. So I took my jacket off and put it around him. We put him in one car, and we put Sean in another car. We had 6 agents and 3 people. It was just one of the best, the finest examples I have seen in the Bureau of making things happen in the moment, quick decision-making, correct decision-making, with the safety and well-being of every one of those people being first and foremost in our minds. So 2 of us rode back with Ben, 2 rode with Sean, and then 2 took Michael Devlin to be processed, to be booked. He is currently, by the way, serving 71 consecutive life sentences. So I had the opportunity to ride another agent with Ben. And we were sitting in the back seat, and I'm a video gamer, because I'm a nerd, and he was a big gamer. So we were just talking about, like, a Wii had just come out, so we were talking about games. And he stopped at one point, and he just goes, oh my God. He said, how did you guys find me? And at the time, I'll be honest, I didn't actually know the answer to that. So I just said, Ben, I said, we never stopped looking for you. And he just looked at me and he said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hardly, like, I was like, I had nothing, I didn't want to tell him this, but it was true. I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. I was just there doing what needed to be done when someone said, do this. So Wade, the other agent who was driving the car, Wade and I took Ben back to his family. And so when I watched that video that you guys saw, that's very personal for me. That moment when the girl gets out of the car and goes back to her family. Because we've done that. We've done it. We've seen it. I know how good we can be. And I know the kind of good that we do. And I'll tell you something else. The reason that Michael Devlin confessed in the back of that car to not 1 kidnapping, but to 2, he said this later, he said it was because Tina and Lynn spoke to him with compassion and respect. They talked to him like he was a human being. And it was even in the worst moment of his life, knowing what he had done, they treated him with compassion and respect. He said later, when he was incarcerated, he was willing to talk about why he had done what he had done, but he was only willing to talk to Tina and Lynn. He wouldn't talk to anybody else. So they spent a lot of time interviewing him and talking with him. And he did say later that his plan ultimately was to kill Ben. He was going to kill the younger boy. But he talked about some of the other things and issues and motivations. So for me, that was one of my first experiences in the Bureau. So no matter what happens, no matter what you guys see in the press, no matter what, big stories out there, those are the little stories. Well, it wasn't little, it did make kind of big news. Again, you can look it up, it's called the Missouri Miracle. But those are the stories that happen every day. And why I want to keep doing what I'm doing. It's why I do what I do now as applicant coordinator. Because I know that we need you guys. We need good people who are going to continue to do that kind of work and not care who gets the credit for it. I don't care. I will always have that moment of being with Ben and him just saying, thank you. One other thing I wanted to mention, for those of you who are interested in criminal justice, in evidence recovery, and CSI and that kind of stuff, I will say that one of the reasons why we were there talking to that guy in the first place was because of physical evidence recovery. Because a young man had seen a white truck that he knew was unusual for the rural area that he lived in. So he reported that to the police. So our evidence response team went and did tire impressions in that area. And then someone later called in a tip saying that they had seen the white truck at a parking lot near a pizza restaurant. So they were able to match the tire impressions to the tires that were on that white truck. And then that white truck turned out to belong to the brother of Michael Devlin, who was right there working in that pizza parlor, which is why they ended up interviewing him that day. So, I mean, honestly, that was just some good old-fashioned investigative legwork. And then it was Tina and Lynn that just broke the whole thing wide open by sitting and talking to them. So anyway, that's that's the Missouri Miracle. But I think it's such a great story because it showcases it's all the best of what we are capable of. So questions, you guys? Anything at all? Yeah.
I don't think anyone has a problem when the FBI does their job and a case is solved because of that. However, I believe most of Americans' concerns with the FBI comes with unconstitutional surveillance, such as with like the PRISM network that Snowden exposed, I think, like 2015. What steps has the FBI or Secretary Mayorkas has done to mitigate unconstitutional, unwarranted surveillance of American citizens?
So I'll be honest, because I know what the process is for authorizing any kind of warrant or surveillance, and I'm just a ground knuckle-dragging agent, as they say, but it shocks the hell out of me that anything's ever authorized at a level that folks call unconstitutional or unwarranted. The process to go through is extensive and requires an awful lot of investigative work. It requires a lot of reasonable cause. So when something happens that causes us concern, the first thing that happens is we will do, I know we'll do our own internal investigation, and they were like, well, that's great, you're gonna investigate yourself. Look, all of us live in fear of our own internal investigations. But the OIG will also investigate us as well. And this has happened multiple times when a lot of stuff comes up, the OIG will step in and conduct, I'm sorry, Office of Inspector General, thank you. Office of the Inspector General will step in and conduct an audit and an investigation and make recommendations to us. And then we will hear directly from the director. Usually he'll send a message out to all of us. And either there will be new formal training, there will be new processes and procedures, there will be consequences for those who stepped outside the lines. I know they've conducted OIG investigations of a lot of the FISA issue. There was another one with respect to gender inequality at Quantico. The OIG stepped in to investigate that as well. And we'll abide by those findings. The bottom line is we will abide by those findings. We will make those adjustments. A lot of times that means more training for us. We spend a lot of our time doing training, and a lot of times it's specifically for those reasons, to make sure that we are in compliance and following the rules. Because we don't, we destroy everything we've just worked for. If I don't follow the rules, if I'm working on a case, and I step outside those lines, and I can't take it to court, it's worthless. Why would I do that? And that's honestly, that's how most of us feel, really and truly. A lot of those situations have embarrassed those of us internally as well. So, because we expect the best from ourselves. Good question, though. Most people don't ask me a tough question. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for students that are interested either in the honors internship or the collegiate initiative program, how they could sort of put together their cover letter, their resume to stand out, to potentially get in either of those roles or positions?
So one of the best things to do is to go to the website and look at those core competencies. Because if you are structuring a cover letter, or do we take cover letters? We just do resumes and applications. So if you are familiar with that skill list, then you can kind of tailor your resume In fact, sometimes for special agent applicants, we actually tell them, don't just do it chronologically, literally structure your resume by those competencies. Leadership, job, example, organizing and planning, and here's what I did there. That helps us see right away that somebody matches those skills. The other thing that I recommend to folks is, and this may not help with the resume portion, but it helps with the communication portion, take advantage of what your school has as far as career services when they do things like practice interviews or resume building workshops. Take advantage of those. Just the chance to sit and do a practice interview with somebody sometimes. And knowing what you know now about that format, situation, action, result, you can work with your career services folks and say, hey, these are the types of questions that I need to become familiar with answering. So practicing is huge. And again, when you're doing your resume, keep in mind your experiences outside of just work or the classroom. All of it, sports, volunteer work, Girl Scouts, all of those things. Those all may provide great examples. And you might not put those on a traditional resume. It doesn't, they're gonna hate me for this. We don't care if your resume is like 4 pages long. Normally, yes, keep it short, keep it to like 1 page. That's the general rule, but ours is a federal resume format, and you don't have to stick to that 1 page. I mean, you can tell us every great thing you've ever done. It's a very, very competitive internship. We had 12,000 applications this year, and we are filling 250 positions. So, I'm sorry? Yeah. I thought it was 250 new ones, because the rest of them were all returning. So, which actually tells you something, right? Like, that's a huge chunk of people that return. We only had 250 new slots to fill out of 12,000 applications. So whatever you can do to highlight those core competencies and your GPA. But the reality of the GPA is, if you have a 3.0, that's awesome. That meets the minimum qualification. But someone with a 4.0 and not a lot of great experience or not a lot of emphasis on those competencies, it's going to be less competitive. If you have like a 3.1, but you're good to go on flexibility, adaptability, interpersonal ability, collaboration. That's going to make you actually more competitive. So don't underestimate your chances just because maybe you're close to that 3.0 versus a 4.0.
Yeah. This is more about transparency. I know that a bunch of public officials and those with high-level security clearances often complain about the excessive amount of classifications of like top secret on documents that they believe have no reason to be classified as such, as well as with redactions, as we saw with, for example, the Mueller report, where redactions mischaracterize the contents of those documents. What efforts has the Bureau and other relevant departments taken to minimize redactions and classifications to increase transparency?
So I am not an OCA, which is Original Classification Authority, which means I have zero authority to decide when something is top secret, when it's secret no foreign, when it's SCI, which is Secure Compartmented Information. I have no authority over that. So that is actually not a question that I am in a position to be able to answer for you. On a personal level, having worked, again, in the counterintelligence community, yeah, a lot of stuff is potentially what we might have thought overclassified. Or things may have happened in an environment that was outside of a facility, but then becomes classified. And so we had that question sometimes, like, hey, I was, here talking to this person, why is that classified? Because, we were out in public and anybody could have heard it or whatever. So, but it is our responsibility to abide by the rules, because part of this is because we don't see all of the information. So I may not see all those connections that my interaction has with some other stuff that I don't need to know, right? That's still very much a real thing. Stuff may be classified and you may have authority to view it, but you might not need to know it. So I am not exposed on a scale where I would be able to speak to the transparency, because I may not be seeing everything that it's relevant to or everything that it's related to, because I just don't have that need to know.
Yeah.
But again, just recognizing, hey, when something needs to be classified, when I conduct something or I do something and then it ends up being, top secret or secret, then it just is part of some larger investigation or larger area of concern that I'm just not privy to.
Yeah. Another reason why I asked that was because of the whole issue with classified documents and outgoing elected officials too. That whole environment. Because sometimes they complain that it's not really relevant to keep it classified, so it should be punished.
And again, that comes down to who's an original classification authority, right? Who actually has the authority to classify or declassify, and under what conditions. All I know is I have, in my career, I am subject to all of the procedures and all of the rules and guidelines when it comes to secure and compartmented and classified information. So I'm not in any position to take something and say, this doesn't need to be classified. First of all, if I step outside the door with something that's secret or that's TS or secret, right? If I step outside the door with that, I'm subject to a consequence, basically, right? Because I'm not even supposed to remove it from facilities that are designated as appropriate for that type of material. So I know that that's been a thing with high-level officials leaving office and maintaining that information. High-level official aside, whatever their job title was, at least from my perspective, no, you don't take that with you, right? So like when I moved from St. Louis, I moved to the headquarters, and then I stepped down to the Washington field office. I didn't take stuff with me because it's not mine to take, right? And I don't get to make that decision. So I'm not in a position to offer, to expound upon your question or to offer an official FBI opinion on any of that. So, and I say that not trying to be evasive.
I gotcha. I thought that the FBI had some way of suggesting that certain documents be classified a certain way. You have to say that.
The answer to most everything in the Bureau is it depends. And it depends. It depends on what the material relates to, where it's derived from, the circumstances under which it is gathered. All of those things are consequential in determining the level of classification that something may have. I went from working complex financial crimes, all of which were unclassified. I never worked anything secret or top secret, and then went to Washington Field where, yeah, in counterintelligence, nearly everything is at a minimum secret, if not secret and compartmented. But the reasons for that I came to understand as being, relevant and important to the material that we were gathering.
Like the Wall Street Journal guy, if his name was exposed doing certain things, he would be arrested immediately because if it was revealed for the work he was doing.
There was, in fact, I know there was, when I was in St. Louis, I had worked with Blue Cross Blue Shield as a healthcare fraud investigator. So there was a fellow investigator at Blue Cross Blue Shield who had worked for the CIA. And I had met him before in the context of working with him, and I didn't believe him. I thought he was just making that up just to sound cool. But it turned out, no, he really had, and he had leaked information about some of their operations in Iran to, I don't remember if it was Wall Street Journal, but it was to a national publication, released some of that information to a reporter, and the reporter wrote a book. And so this got into a considerable First Amendment debate, right? Over what the journalists' exposure and liability was for criminal activity, and versus what the former agent, his name's Jeff Sterling, if anyone's ever curious, wants to look him up. As I don't think so. Again, this was 2006, 2007, and he was based out of Salt Lake City. St. Louis. So, but so ultimately, I don't think that the journalists, I don't think that there were any legal consequences, but but Jeff's in jail because again, that was his responsibility, and he knew that. And that's another thing to keep in mind too when it comes to some of those officials. They are briefed, they are taught, they are told, they know what that responsibility is. And again, there are very, very few what we call classification authorities, which are the folks who can, in fact, deem something unclassified, but there is a procedure for that. Yeah.
What are some of the qualities or backgrounds that
So if you're interested in tactical operations, that's like our SWAT team or our hostage rescue team, HRT. HRT is based solely out of Quantico, and that's all they do, is they train, and drop out of helicopters and practice and shoot houses. SWAT teams, every field office has a SWAT team. They do all receive the same training and have to meet the same requirements. and they do not require that you have tactical experience. You don't have to have been a police officer. You don't have to have been in the military, but they will expect that you have some instinctive level of tactical knowledge. You'll learn a lot of that at Quantico, right? So if you become an agent and you go to Quantico, because you do have to be an agent in order to be on the tactical operations team, you will learn a lot of those tactics and operations. And if you're interested in becoming a SWAT operator, then after, usually you have to wait till after your probationary period of 2 years, but that's okay because you still want to learn as much as you possibly can. Then you'll try out for the SWAT team. So as far as what they look for, it's folks who can complete the training, who blend well with the rest of the team, and who are able to demonstrate some level of proficiency and instinct. But HRT is different. If you want to do HRT, they will expect that you have some kind of tactical background. Yeah.
You had previously spoke about at the beginning of your presentation about some of the international connections with the Bureau. I was just thinking if you could speak a little more about that.
Okay. So we have what are called legal attachés. Was that your question too? Because I saw your hand was up. So legats are fantastic opportunities. You can either work in an administrative capacity, or some special agents will take the opportunity to work in another legat, but you won't come into the Bureau and go straight to an international office. So those are very competitive opportunities, but they're great. I mean, they're in London and Paris and Dubai and South Africa, and I mean, they're in some very difficult locations and they're in some very glamorous locations. So again, those are very competitive opportunities, but they all have things like operational support technicians or staff operations specialists, and then again, agents. And if you have a legal background, if you're interested, if any of you are going to law school, then they also, that is actually a background that you prefer for the attaché office. Yeah.
So just one question.
Sure.
What you said the hiring process, let's say international job at FBI or DS for foreign service?
It's a really good question. So again, when you work in one of the attaché offices, you're going to be going through either the State Department or with our international partners. So we're not going to take a lot of independent action. A lot of this, so here's a good example. I know, I'm drawing a blank. There was a bomb that went off at an American embassy or facility, and this was over a decade ago. It's been a long time. But our attaché there, our personnel there, coordinated so that we could send personnel there to do the evidence recovery, to examine the scene, to assist some of the American personnel who were there. When there was a mass shooting in New Zealand several years ago, and we coordinated heavily with our office there, again, to provide support, to provide, sometimes we work under a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, right? So we'll work under that MOU, which is sort of a partnership agreement, to provide resources and personnel, and then also just to maintain relationships, but to maintain those relationships for the purpose of either being able to investigate actions against American citizens in that location, or to provide those resources when they need them. So the New Zealand, for example, we provided, we have a hazardous ERT team that deals with hazardous materials, and we're very, very highly trained and want to be able to provide those resources wherever they're needed. And so I know our HERT, I believe, was deployed. So for opportunities like that, which actually, if you don't necessarily work in an overseas location, you could still have the opportunity for travel. It depends. Like HERT or the evidence response team. I know the Washington field office, for example, has multiple ERTs, and one of those at any given time is prepared and expected to be prepared for international deployment. So, and that's something you can do, by the way. It doesn't matter what position you are in, special agent, intelligence analyst, IT specialist, you can apply to be on the evidence response team, and then we'll send you to training at Quantico, and then you'll continue to get training after that. Yes?
There's a lot of data coming out from the military that applicants are not meeting criteria
hiring process. So our hire rate, by the way, this is relevant to what you're saying, so we hire about 3% of our applicants. And that's actually not changed. It's been between 3 and 4% since then. In the Norfolk office, we are a little higher, it's about 5%. I would like to say it's because we find the best people. But so different offices may have different hiring rates, and it's going to depend on the military presence. We get a lot of folks from the Navy. Other places that don't have that same kind of presence may struggle to find applicants. But we have not missed any of our hiring goals, except for I think 1 year during COVID. What we have done is, with respect to special agent applicants, are you talking about special agents in particular, or just bureau-wide? So I'm more familiar with the agent numbers in particular. We obviously, since some of the drug laws have changed, yes, that has been challenging for us. We're still meeting most of our hiring goals when it comes to special agents, intelligence analysts, and maybe Brett, can you speak to professional staff at all? As far as the hiring goals?
The drug policy has been, like, interns last year. We lost a ton of interns. I think we processed like 20 or 30, and of that, only 3 or 4 maybe took the whole process.
Yeah. Some of those were polygraph.
Yeah, it's a polygraph and the drug use.
Yeah.
The person to be honest, like, they think they got to get a little on that.
Yeah, and in some of the other positions too, we do find that the drug policy is difficult for a lot of folks to be in compliance with when they apply. We did change, I think we used to say it was 3 years of professional experience in order to apply for the special agent position. They reduced it to 2. And then we ended up with such a giant pool of applicants, they actually thought they're gonna pull it back to 3 years. So a couple of things we may alter a little bit. The PFT, the physical fitness test. So that's one of my, near and dear to my heart, very personal at PFT. So the special agent job requires a certain level of professional experience, that you pass a couple of our tests, and you have to be able to pass a physical fitness test. And yeah, this one is definitely a challenge. However, what you have to pass at Quantico hasn't changed. Within the process, we have changed some of the parameters with the expectation that, hey, if you do well enough on the physical fitness test at this phase, it's on you, the applicant, to make sure that you reach that level of fitness that you're gonna need in order to pass Quantico, because if you don't pass it, you will not be sworn in as a special agent. So yes, there are definitely challenges. There are some things that we're able to do to help meet that, but we're still hitting the 3% to 4%, which is what we've expected just for years and years, which is the same as Harvard. And actually, it's even a little lower than Princeton, Stanford, and Yale. So, they're like the Harvard of law enforcement. Yeah.
I often talk to my students about social media, their use of it, their presence. How does that play into the application process when it comes to the background check or even the polygraph? Do you all look at students' social media pages or platforms, and how does that play into their potential selection or even disqualification from the role?
So that's a really, really good question. So when it comes to social media, we do require that applicants disclose all of their social media accounts. Now, as far as disqualifying, it's relatively, it's possible, yes, but it's relatively uncommon. The only thing that may provide for a lot of folks is if you have a particular interest, like in counterintelligence, it may make it challenging if you have had a very large social media presence. If you're a YouTuber, or if if you're looking for lots of Instagram subscribers, you might be limiting yourself, even if it doesn't preclude you from getting in. Now, I know that we have disqualified people for certain types of posts, but we're very clear about what does and doesn't meet our standards. For example, you cannot have willfully engaged in any activity designed to overthrow the U.S. government by force. There's a video of you at the Capitol on January 6th. We don't want to hire you. We're going to come talk to you. Okay, so yes, there are definitely things that can disqualify you. So we just tell people the same thing that I tell my 12-year-old daughter: just be mindful. Be very mindful of what you put on social media. I have yet to encounter an applicant who doesn't have a lot of accounts. I'm on Twitter. I have my own Twitter account. I actually started it just to follow the metro in DC because I found that that was where people had all the information about which trains were on fire. But it's turned out to be really, really useful. So we're not saying you can't have it. We're just saying at this point in your lives, really think about what you want to, because the stuff doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. Some people on their own, outside of law enforcement, are really good at digging through and finding things. We're pretty good at it, but we're not going to do it unless there's a compelling reason to do so. So, yeah. So yes and no, right? It depends, like everything else in the Bureau. It depends. I'm supposed to have a LinkedIn account for the Bureau, and I don't have one yet. So I'm inherently distrustful. But that's considering what I've seen and where I've worked in the Bureau too. So it's unrealistic to think that you guys won't have social media. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that after an agent retires, they have to wait 20 years before they're allowed to talk about it in their experience. So
Yeah.
why is it 20 years?
So that is specific to classification. So with a lot of things that are classified, it is considered secret or top secret for a period of, in most cases, 25 years. So that's what I was referring to there. I was just saying that, like, this intern that worked with us in Russian counterintel, and he had acted like he was in the middle of our squad area. So I mean, we talked about everything. He was right there in the thick of it. But yeah, he can't talk about that until a lot of that stuff becomes declassified after that expires. So it's not that we can't talk about it right for some set amount of time. It literally has to do with a specific date. It's always estimating. Yes. Your question's making me nervous.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
If you don't mind asking, what year did you join the Bureau?
Oh, that's a good, thank you. It went so much easier than your last question.
It's a lead-in.
Oh, good, okay, so it's a trap. So I joined the Bureau in June of 2006, so I'm almost at 17 years.
Gotcha. In that case, you might not be able to answer this question, but how has the FBI changed itself from being an independent agency to then joining the newly formed Homeland Security Department?
I don't know that I'm able to answer that question. I know that we value our partnership with all of the intelligence agencies. We call it the Five Eyes, right? I do think that we have become, since I've been in the Bureau, much more integrated with a lot of other agencies and departments because we recognize we have to work with them and share information within parameters, and it is very difficult, right? Because we have those limitations, but we need to share that information.
Yeah, because before they were competing against each other.
Yes, and I will say, now I can't speak to that. That is not a sense that I've ever had in the Bureau. I know we share a lot of information and partnerships with even the CIA, right? That's the most famous one, our big rival, the CIA. And in my experience, I worked really, really well alongside other agents. We send some of our own folks to work with the CIA as well. So we've really found like those channels for information sharing with them. I know, again, having worked in the intelligence side, we worked with Australian intelligence, we work with British intelligence. They really do love tea. So weirdest thing. So we do work with a lot of those international partners, but again, like and you mentioned specifically Department of Homeland Security. So we are very task force oriented now. So what you'll find in any field office is you'll find Bureau employees and agents, but you will also find a lot of task force officers who are joining us on teams from other agencies. We actually had a Department of Energy task force officer on one of my old squads. So we have Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol, really just about every federal agency. We will have task forces oriented so that we can partner, share information, share those resources, and again, really and truly all with the big picture in mind. Yeah.
So I know that there was a bombing in the Oklahoma federal building, like in 1995, and then like after 9/11, the FBI like switched to like intelligence focus. I don't know if there'll be a replacement switch. How has the FBI like changed to those things? Like how do you guys do things now that like, you guys didn't do?
Oh, figure out, yeah.
So it's a good question. It hasn't, so the reality is our focus hasn't changed. fact, someone I worked with was part of, they brought multiple evidence response teams together, and he was part of that effort. And that affected a lot of agents for a long time after that. But you're right, after 9/11, we did have to become more intelligence focused. So we had to add that focus. So, and that goes to what I was just saying as far as developing those partnerships and those task forces where we have those memorandums of understanding, those MOUs with all of these other agencies, so that we are better at gathering intelligence, analyzing intelligence, sharing intelligence when necessary, working with international partners. So it is interesting, we haven't necessarily, we did expand a little bit in size after 9/11. So we hired, we got funding for and hired more agents so that we could maintain both of those perspectives. So we have responsibilities in the criminal environment, which is human trafficking, child exploitation, bank fraud, wire fraud, complex financial crimes, but we also now have added and expanded, grown our focus on the intelligence side. So it's not a shift from one to the other, it's really more we had to expand. And it is certainly challenging, but it is also a reason why we are really, really good at training our people. I never worked counterintelligence when I went to counterintel, but they made sure that I got the training and the background that I needed before I began working that. Yeah.
Is there any advice or tips you can give us when human trafficking that you've seen happen around you?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Is there any like tips or advice you can give us women about human trafficking that you've seen happen around you?
Oh, I wish I brought somebody from our squad. I don't know that I can tell you anything different necessarily in this location than I would offer anyone else, which is, like you saw in the video, right? So someone who looks a little out of place, someone who looks like they're sort of in fear and reserved. If it's out of place, if it seems out of place, then it's worth just making the phone call. We do get a lot of tips in our operations center. In fact, actually, I do think, didn't we just recently arrest somebody in a hotel? We did, for human trafficking, and I think it was someone who worked in the hotel who had noticed that there were a young girl or multiple girls, multiple young girls with the same adult, and it looked as though they were clearly not active, they weren't independent, right? So, yeah, social media. This goes back to the social media question. Honestly, yeah, so for younger folks, managing their social media, monitoring their social media is actually really, really important. We do see, and actually my own boss, Jason Bilnowski, did an interview about cyber predators. So here's the reality. A lot of the human trafficking starts online. It starts online with having a conversation with someone who is not what they say they are, or who says who they are, but they say all the right things, right? And the term grooming is so overused right now. It's kind of unfortunate because it does refer to a very specific behavior. Grooming meaning having conversations with, providing gifts to, enticing someone for the purpose of ultimately controlling their behavior, right? That's what grooming is. So like a kid who is in, and this is outside the cyber world, we've seen it before where a guidance counselor in a school will see a kid who isn't participating with other kids, separate that kid, they'll go back to their office, hey, take some candy, don't tell anybody, right? That's a secret. No one's allowed to have candy, but you can have a Tootsie Pop. And now that kid now they're beholden essentially to that counselor. For us, it's no big deal, it's a piece of candy, right? But now the counselor said you can't tell anybody about that, it's our secret. So engaging someone in that one-on-one, that relationship, where it's meant to be just between the two of them and kind of closed off, is a huge step in that grooming process. So, and that's another thing that it does happen online, where there's a picture that gets shared. Don't tell anybody, don't tell your parents, like this is just between us. They won't understand. So those types of behaviors, those are a big first step towards what ultimately leads to the human trafficking, right? So first you have to find, the victims have to be identified, and the victims then have to be enticed so that, and again, this is part of grooming, so that it seems like it's their own fault, like it's their idea. Very different from kidnapping, right? Kidnapping, kids just taken against their will. The thing that makes human trafficking so insidious is that people are convincing young ladies and kids that it's their, mostly young ladies, it could be anybody, that it's their fault, that you did this, you came to me. I didn't do anything. So identifying, so it's hard, right? Because now we're saying, you know, you can't be hyper vigilant and pay attention to everything all the time, but when people do see something and they know, like, why is that guy, why does he have, like, they don't look like they're sisters, right? And then just makes that call, and then it becomes an investigation, and in this case we did, yeah, we arrested someone who was engaged in human trafficking. So I wish I had like a better bullet pointed list. Like, yes, look for this and this and this and this. But I think you're on the right track, having an understanding of how it happens. The big difference between that and someone making themselves vulnerable to kidnapping. Right? You're all told, right, as women, don't walk on campus alone at night, right? Always take student transportation, or you know, have your keys out and ready, and this and so forth. Human trafficking, completely different. And you might still be vulnerable to it and just not recognize it. So I wish I had more for you. I do know there's more on our website and our YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning, you know, a little bit more about what to look for, what to spot. But I mean, I go back to what we say all the time. If you see something, say something. It's okay. If you're wrong, you're wrong. No big deal. Okay. We figure it out and we move on. But we'd rather have somebody call us and be wrong than not say anything at all. Like if that kid hadn't called about that truck, I don't know what would happen. Anything else? Any questions? Oh, yeah, sorry.
So I'm a strict major. Do you have any applications for that sort of discipline within the FBI? Like, do you have older handlings of cases or older responses?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So, nothing specific. And again, this goes back to, I don't necessarily care what your major might be, but you may have had some exposure and experience in things that would be really well suited to certain jobs in the Bureau. It's funny that you mentioned that about old cases, because I will pivot for 1 second and say if anybody here is in IT or computer science, potentially, or has that interest, we do need people who are willing and able to learn about some of the older systems. Because if we do a search warrant and there's like a Commodore 64 or a TRS-80, if anybody even knows what that is, we're gonna need somebody who can evaluate that computer. So yes, in some respects, we do need people with a historical perspective. But I think for you, what's going to be more valuable is the ability to synthesize information, that flexibility, that you know, how you look at something, how you evaluate something, the critical thinking. So, but I don't think, but no, we have no specific jobs for history majors. Yeah, that is, so that's an hour and a half. That's how much time I was given. Some of the toughest questions of, like, most college groups are like, I want to do the internship, and what if I did drugs this time, and what major do I need? So I really appreciate that. I do, because to me that suggests you guys really are doing a lot of critical thinking and evaluating, and are willing to ask hard questions. And I think that's great. Keep doing it. Stop doing that. Again, that's me. If you have any questions after this, please let me know. Email them to me. Give me a call. And all the best of luck to you guys. Thank you so much.
It's like real intimate at this point. Not that many of you guys.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess everyone has class right now.
It's okay.
Well, today we're going to be talking about writing standout resumes and really kind of how to create the best first impression before actually meeting the employer. And my name is Verlaine Quinney, and I'm our college recruiting manager. Saw many of you yesterday. But I manage our summer internship program as well as our early careers program at Dollar Tree, and our headquarters is in Chesapeake, Virginia.
I'm Stacy Williamswood, and I'm an early careers recruiter. Please excuse my voice. I'm working on it, but yeah. So let's get started. Make sure I'm doing this right. I'm not. Okay, so pretty much what we'll be covering today is the purpose of the resume screening processes, preparing to write the resume, resume formats, and different parts of a resume.
And so a couple of reminders, take as many notes as possible today. We love to answer questions, so if you have any of them, please feel free to ask. And then please connect with us afterwards if you have additional questions or you want to learn more about even starting a career at Dollar Tree as well.
Absolutely, because we're always looking for talent. So definitely, I'll make sure I have my cards and things like that provided to you guys. And I'm also available to answer questions as well. So how to write an awesome resume. You know, a resume is what stands between you and your dream job. So you always want to make sure that you have a strong resume. I always call it your brag sheet, because when you're submitting a resume, as you guys know, there's most of the time no picture. You're not there to kind of advocate for yourself. So your resume is what advocates for you. So I don't care something as little as extracurricular activities or an award in, I don't know, citizenship. All those things should be on there because it is a brag sheet of yourself, and an introduction of yourself to people that don't know you.
And so the purpose of it is to outline your skills, background experience, highlight and summarize your qualifications, and then tell us your story when you're not there to get you the interview. When a person is really in that job search process or and they're trying to figure out, well, what's going on? If they are interviewing, not getting the job, then they know they need to work on their interview skills. If they're submitting application after application after application, and they're not getting an interview, then they need to work on their resume because that means it's probably not targeted to the jobs they're applying on. So you can always kind of gauge where you would need to adjust or work on when you are starting that job search process.
So kind of like the resume screening process, I know this process also well because with me being an early careers recruiter, I'm consistently looking at resumes, I'm consistently looking at applications. And so basically that when you apply for a job, it appears in our applicant tracking system. And I'll get it, and 100% of it is pretty much scanned, right? But only 20% of it is viewed because a lot of the times you have like, I don't know if anybody's ever applied for like a government entity, but they look for keywords in your resume, right? So 20% of those are possibly viewed, and about 2 to 5 are actually called for that interview. So that's why it's very important to make sure that your resume is always tailored towards whatever position or job that you're looking for.
So preparation is key. What you need to know before writing your resume, and that's really what we're going to talk about. So the things that you want to look at, how do you even decide what content should be on the resume, right? Those are some of the things that we're going to break down. And then other area to note is you should have more than one resume, right? We think that we create that one resume and we use that for everything. Well, no 2 job descriptions are going to be exactly the same. Even if one company has the same title as another company, there are going to be some differences, and that's why it's so important to make sure that you're targeting your resume for the job that you're applying. Now, if you have your standard one resume, which we're going to talk about what you include in that, that's perfectly fine, but it should always be slightly tweaked to make sure that you are targeting it as much as possible for the job that you're applying for.
Yeah, I agree. Just to kind of piggyback on what Verlin mentioned, when I was entering college, I actually had to work through college to pay for school. So the biggest thing for me was sitting down with, student services, career services, and they actually helped me to understand the importance of having multiple resumes and having them just kind of shopping those. Taking your strongest points, like mine at the time was like customer service and administrative work, and taking those and tailoring those resumes to then help me to be kind of like a force to compete, especially with me still being in college. So a big thing is you need to know yourself and know the job details. On top of that, I definitely want to strongly suggest kind of doing a case study, if you will, on the organization that you're applying to. I get this a lot when you're interviewing or just doing a basic phone screen with a lot of candidates. They don't know anything about Dollar Tree. And I'm just like, well, why would you want to work here if you don't know anything about it? It's very important because one thing I can't stress enough is understanding and knowing the culture that you'll be working for. You want to know if this is going to work for you, if it's not. And the good thing about being a college graduate and having a degree up under your belt, you get to kind of flex a little bit. You can kind of see like, I can compete. I can definitely compete with my counterparts, and this may not be a place for me, or this may be a really great organization for me to work for. It also will kind of sometimes help you when it comes down to compensation and things like that. I would even take a shorter, a pay cut, if you will, to work for a great organization, okay? Analyze the job posting. So not only do you want to analyze the organization, you also want to analyze the entire job posting as well. A lot of the times people kind of get what's preferred and what's a requirement, sometimes mixed. If it's a requirement, it's a requirement. It's fixed, okay? Preferred skills, you can kind of sometimes finesse that into your favor and definitely land that position for sure. You always want to make sure that your skills and skills are kind of aligning with what it is that's required. Organization skills, multitasking, having strong communication and written skills. Those are all things that you want to include on your resume because most of the time those are things that you need to have in order to get that position. Quantifying your experience, I don't know, like a marketing job, accounting, finance, being able to talk about your accolades and how much money you've made a company or how much money you've made while you were in school. Those things are huge to put on your resume and kind of, again, brag about. Keywords and phrases and comparing with other job postings. So you want to kind of look at, as far as comparing, you just want to make sure that you're looking at the pros and cons of the different options that you have, okay? Don't ever think that you need to settle or that you need to just customize something for that particular position. Really go out there and search and look for a position that is in your field of interest.
So some of the resume faux pas are, most HR managers do not need to know your birthday. We don't necessarily need to see a picture of you. We don't necessarily need to have or see a whole bunch of colors on the resume. It should traditionally be pretty standard. In terms of the creativity, it's going to depend on your industry, obviously. But most companies are going to look for a standard format resume. We're going to talk about what that looks like as well. But in terms of creativity, you don't need to include that. You want to make sure that you don't typically go back past 10 years. And this is just so that you know as you continue to build your resume, as you graduate, you get additional experience. After that 10-year mark, you don't necessarily need to include it on your resume. And then, of course, with middle school, those are things that you just don't need. Once you're in college, you don't need to include that. What year are you guys? Let me ask you that. Juniors? Oh, sophomores, juniors. Okay, so this is typically freshman year is when you can typically keep your high school stuff, but then after you complete that first year, you can take your high school information off and just include the information from college. And so again, you're building your resume, getting involved in student organizations, start taking on leadership opportunities, volunteering, community work. That's how you build your resume while you're in college to get that experience so that it's not like, well, what were you doing all 4 years? Start building that as you're in school, going throughout school. And then the other thing too is making sure your email address that you use is a professional email address or your school email address is fine. And making sure it's an email address that you're actually going to check. Don't send it to the spam folder if they're trying to call you for an interview and you don't check that folder. You can miss out on that opportunity. And then lastly, when we're looking at, we're going to get into the heading, but the faux pas is locally you don't necessarily need to list your physical address. If you have just your city and state, that typically would suffice. Because when you're on the company's website, the application typically will have you submit your physical address.
All right. So basically, this is like kind of like a fun fact. So in HR departments of major companies, we receive thousands of resumes per month. Some receive 200 resumes per available position. So that just automatically should give you a red flag of I have to compete and what is going to position me to win, right? So this is just some helpful tips of what it is that your resume should kind of look like. You know, you want the 8.5 by 11, you know, paper, black ink. You don't want to go in there with nothing pink, you know. Your font sizes, and then also the formats of those of your resume should definitely be, of course, a Word doc, free, and then also like you want to refrain from PDFs and things like that, because you want to be able to have a format that we can actually open and be able to look at. And you want a quality printer, of course, when you're actually physically going in for an interview. I know this may sound really crazy, but even having quality paper, a good print, can make all of a difference for you. And proofreading, I can't stress that enough, is essential. You don't want anything misspelled on your resume, especially if you have like an attribute of something like I pay close attention to detail, I'm really good with stuff like that. Yeah, we've seen it all.
I would say just a recent example too is we've had applicants where the history won't match, like when you get into the interview, what they're describing in the interview won't match what they listed on their resume. So you want to be factual in your resume. Don't make up things to include that on your resume either. So let's talk about the different formats of a resume that you can typically have. The first one is the most widely used, most popular, and that's the reverse chronological order. So you're starting with your most recent history and working your way back. And this is typically good for those with like no employment gap. So you guys are in school, this is what you can kind of take care of. If you guys are, again, like serving in certain roles, you can use those titles to kind of, again, build your resume and use that as actual work experience or leadership experience. The second one is the functional or fresher, focuses on skills and your achievements. And this is based off of actual skill set. So for example, you would have customer service, and then you would talk about the different skills that you have gained from certain companies under that skill, and then towards the bottom it does have a separate section that says work experience that actually lists the jobs right underneath each other. But that focus is again based on the skill set that will be relevant to the job you're applying. That's not necessarily used as much, and that's usually also good if you have more gaps of employment, but that one again is not really used as much. And then the combination is a combination of both of those, where it combines the chronological and the functional style, and then it includes the work history section with the dates at the bottom. So, again, not as commonly used, but the reverse chronological is good. Combination is usually also used if you have like employment gaps or if you're like changing industries, it's usually a good one for that.
All right, so again, just to kind of piggyback on what Marlin mentioned, just to kind of choose your format, yeah. It's resume content. This is kind of piggybacking on what we've already covered, but you definitely want to tailor make your resume to, of course, align with the job that you're applying for. So let's say you're looking for a position in digital marketing. So you definitely want to really finesse those skills that you gained, you know, even if you don't have any job experience, right? You still want to finesse a lot of the experience that you've gained through college. So I know that you guys haven't just been sitting here, you know, for the 4+ years that you've been here. So what have you done? Have you been in any clubs? Have you done any competitions? The gentleman there just mentioned like a Shark Tank competition that you guys are about to, you know, embark on. So those are all things that, what I always say, either finesse or it gives you the ability to kind of flex on your employer. And again, I can't stress this word enough. It helps you compete, okay? Because when you get out of college, that is like the biggest thing, is how you can compete. How can I position myself to land that job that I really need after college. And it's also not only the job that I really need, but the job that I really would like to have after college. You've been in school 4+ years, paying for something that you would like to do for the rest of your life. You definitely want a job, land a job doing that thing, right?
So stressing the results, elaborate on your contributions and your achievements. So if we're thinking about what you have right now and building out the resume as juniors and sophomores, thinking about just the organizations that you're working with, how many students are a part of that organization, especially if you're in a leadership role or leading a committee, what does that look like? Are you coordinating this type of event for X amount of students in attendance? Are you, making the orders? Are you working with vendors? Thinking about what are your contributions, not just saying this is just what I do. Being specific and actually highlighting those major wins. And this is your time to brag. This is not your time to be humble. Your resume is not your time to be humble. You really want to talk about the things that you're contributing and adding. Be brief, so use short, concise phrases. And what I mean by that is just making sure that you're not adding in responsible for and then listing out a whole bunch of stuff, or it looks like a paragraph. You want to also get to the point and highlight what you're looking at. How long do you guys think recruiters are typically looking at resumes when they look at them? Like, if we're going to a job fair, how long do you think they need to look at the resume to determine whether or not this would be a potential good fit?
Only 30 seconds.
30 seconds. What did you say? Not very long. Yeah, it's typically about 6 seconds, so it's not very long. So you want to make sure you're highlighting, you have bullets, we'll talk about the format of that. But again, you want to be concise, you want to use those keywords and make those use those strong words to really document what you have. Write your resume first, and what we mean by that is write out everything that you're doing and then go back and pull out stuff that either you can combine into one bullet or it's not as important as you think it may be for that job. So just write everything out first and then go back and format it afterwards. And then using action verbs. So facilitated, coordinated, chaired, managed, implemented, advised, consulted. Those are all strong action verbs that when you're leading with those words on your resume, in your bullets, it makes your resume a lot more powerful.
Okay, so as far as any resume sections, contact information, of course, should be like your header. Branding statement, normally, as Marlin mentioned, we probably look at a resume for maybe six seconds. That gives us the idea of where you're at, who this person is, and kind of like whether or not we want to even move forward. Highlights of qualifications. That's the second thing that I look at when looking at an interview. It's just eye flow, and understanding that is so important. We see all different types of formats. So we'll see sometimes education at the very top. I don't need to see that. I need to know your skill set. And as far as any type of highlights of qualifications, core competencies, then I look at education and work history. I want to look at what you're coming in with, because I can teach you the job as long as you have the skill set to be able to do so, right?
So let's talk about the first at the very top of your resume, what the heading should include. Your legal name, the city and state, phone number, email address, standard right contact information. How can I best reach you? First name, last name, at whatever that can be. Typically Google is a good one, or obviously your school resume, or your school email address, excuse me. And then the LinkedIn address. That is optional, and we say optional because if you're not active or you're not using it, don't include it. But if you are active on there and you're showcasing the things that you're doing, like attending this would be a great thing to have on your LinkedIn to talk about what you're doing, how you're contributing it. Even if you're just in attendance, again, it all goes back to that branding piece. And when we talk about branding, your heading should be the same on your resume, your cover letter. They don't really use references anymore. It would be very rare for an employer to ask for references, but if they do, your heading would be the same on each one of those packets.
Include a professional summary. Some opt out of like an objective, but either way, this serves as what we call an elevator pitch. Has anybody ever heard of like a 30-second elevator pitch? Our chief diversity officer, his name is Terry Goods, and I remember the first time I ever met with him, and I introduced myself. And the first thing that he said to me was, have you ever heard of a 30-second elevator pitch? And I'm like, yeah, I have. He was like, yeah, you would have failed, you know. I was like, what? You know, I'm thinking I'm being extremely professional, but he taught me what to lead with and what to say and how to present myself. And those are great things to develop over time for yourself, because I remember getting out of college and I had anxiety, and I was a little kind of embarrassed, if you will, of some of my skill sets that I had developed, because none of it was, you know, catered to what it was I was going to school for. You know what I mean? But I learned how to sell myself and use different words and things like that to be able to sell myself, right? So really look into still finding your objective, even if you don't have something like that. Still figure out what it is. What is your why, right? And then developing and creating a professional summary for yourself. I feel like it's almost like a goal setting tool for yourself as well, of where you see yourself, you know, after college. Okay. Hold on. Is that it? Oh no, I hope not.
So a branding statement is exactly what Stacey just was talking about in that professional summary, and making sure that you're including certain things. So again, this is going to be right underneath your heading now, right? So it has your name. Now we're getting to your branding statement or your professional summary, and now I have an idea of who you are before even getting down to your resume. So it should be a very short paragraph. It highlights and summarizes your experience, education, and skills. And then this is a great place because, again, a lot of companies are not necessarily requiring you to have a cover letter, but the branding statement is a great place for you now to insert some of those keywords that may also be needed for the job description and for the applicant tracking system to pick up on some of those keywords. So this is an example I created for you guys. Junior psychology student at Virginia Wesleyan University with 3 years of customer service and volunteer experience, who is excited about gaining experience in the industrial organizational field, energetic self-starter with a strong time management, leadership, and communication skills, who's comfortable working in a diverse, fast-paced work environment. That should highlight who you are, what you want to do, why you may be a good fit for the position you're applying for. Again, like everything else, you would want to tweak that. So for example, if they're not really looking for volunteer experience, you would look for the maybe finance experience. If you have it, you would tweak it for what you actually have and what they're looking for. Okay? So that's the branding statement.
Okay, so I guess the hardest part, okay, I'll ask you this instead of using this. What is the hardest part about resumes? If you guys have already built your resume, if you guys are currently shopping your resumes, what is the hardest thing about your writing your resume?
Choosing what work experience to put on there. I've worked since I was 15 in high school.
Right.
So I have a lot of different work experience in different fields.
Right.
And it's hard to choose between what I want to put on there. Also, 2 to 3 page long resume.
Right, right. So it just goes to show you of resumes having to be picky with what it is that you want to put on there. One thing that I've learned is you are coming out of college. Some people don't do any type of work study, or they don't work during college, which is great. If you don't have to, you can really focus on your studies. However, it makes things a little bit more challenging after college, because then you don't have you don't have any skills that is sometimes put on there. So in your case, with you working since 15, you do have experience. And what I would do is start taking and pinpointing from those jobs that you've actually had, look at those skills and see how they can kind of align with what it is that you're applying for. What is your current major?
Sports and recreation management.
Nice. So depending on what those jobs are, you want to look at the qualifications that they're looking for. Then I want to start using some of those action verbs, what it is that, that I can contribute to the organization that you're applying for. Be more critical of the information you share and the words that you use. So like I just mentioned, you really want to be intentional with what it is that you're putting on those bullet points on those jobs. Because although you may think, I don't know, working at Chipotle is not going to get me a great finance position, there's skills that you've gained from Chipotle that will definitely help you and make you a force to be reckoned with at a finance company.
So highlight the qualifications. This will be your area to really highlight your major career accomplishments, if you received any type of awards, participated or presented at any type of conferences, if you gained any certifications while you were in school or any other licenses. And then these are typically just 3 to 5 bullets right underneath, or right above, I should say, right underneath your branding statement. Again, it's that great flow of how to really build that resume, and that's how to
Okay, core competencies. I'll kind of let you, kind of
So-
elaborate a little bit more.
So core competencies, these are your keywords, and this again goes back to helping the applicant tracking system really pick up on keywords to get you that interview. And so this will be a section that is can be reformatted to be columns underneath highlight of qualifications. And again, these are going to be skill sets. So these may be a list of relevant technical and transferable skills. So this is another place where you can list customer service skills. It can be if you have any type of licenses or certifications, you can list that there. If you have data entry, if you have any of those specific things that will be tailored for your industry, you can list that literally under core competencies. Labeled just like any other section title, core competencies, and then you list those skill sets. And you can have 6 to 12 of those bullets there. Now, this is a great resource. Tagcrowd.com is a great resource if you don't know how to pull out the keywords. So what Tagcrowd does is you will copy the job description, paste it into Tagcrowd, and then it'll populate a bubble. And the larger the word means the more importance, or the more often it was actually used in the job description. And so that will also help you pull out what keywords to use based off of the job description that you're applying.
All right, as far as education and training, of course you want to do your most recent first. You don't want to do something that you did 10, 15 years ago, so you want to definitely put them in order. List your graduation and honors. I was definitely on the dean's list in graduate school and in undergraduate, with my undergraduate education, and so I definitely listed all of those things. I can't stress it enough. It is your brag sheet, so you want to put everything on it, everything you can think of. Any of your accolades, you want to definitely put that on there. List relevant certifications, any licenses. I know a lot of people, and I recruit a lot for IT, our IT department. With IT, having your degree is great, but also certifications are imperative to be able to grow and do great things in the IT world. So if you're in college currently and seeking different certifications as well, these are all things that you want to definitely put on your resume. Any relevant training courses also, I know Google does it, Coursera or something like that. You can do like different trainings and different coursework that you can actually put on there as well. So this is just an example of what it would look like on your resume. So you have like a bachelor's of art in psychology, possible anticipated graduation date, and then you want to put your school, city, and state, okay?
So moving on to experience, listing again the most recent first. Relevant volunteer or leadership experience, if you're participating in any internships, micro internships, shadowing, those could all be listed under your experience. And with that, you want to make sure you're listing the position, obviously, that you had, your job title, the organization, and then the dates that you actually worked there, okay? And again, going back to what we've already discussed in terms of what information you should be using, underneath that experience, you should be bulleting your accomplishments and your results. And again, quantifying when you can, so putting a number to it. If you manage a certain amount of students for an organization, if you manage a certain budget, working within the organization, plan X amount of events, those are things that you want to make sure that you're including underneath there. Present tense for current positions, if you're no longer working there, making sure that everything is in past tense for your bullets. Do not go back more than 2 years, and then you do not need to actually write out responsible for or have an I statements. Because typically right after, when you're saying something, the word that comes right after responsible for, you can just lead with that as a bullet. So normally it could be like responsible for coordinating X, Y, Z. You just lead with coordinated X, Y, Z.
All right, so some of our best resume writing tips, since we've covered quite a bit. Avoid vague terms like detail-oriented and hard worker. Please avoid those. Be specific and quantify, the things that you're either writing down or even during an interview talking about, okay? Cite instances, your skills benefited. So what did you do to benefit your team or your employer, okay? We want to, again, you want to be competitive. So what are you doing? What are you doing that's making you stand out, okay? Make your contact information more prominent. Use bullet points for better readability. So the big thing that I notice as a recruiter is just eye flow. If I have difficulty trying to figure out the resume, because you get a lot of people with all these different boxes and just all this stuff, it does not have to be that difficult. It's literally just listing those things on a piece of paper and where we have just titles. That's literally simple. You don't have to get really crazy and difficult. List your skills, your qualifications, your job experience, education, and that's good. That'll be fine. Use specific keywords to target your resume. We went over this. You just want to definitely make sure that the words that you're using align with the position that you're applying for. So I think that just concludes everything for it. I appreciate you guys giving us some time to speak. Thank you so much.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah,
About the resume? Does everyone have a resume?
that's what I was gonna ask.
Okay, everyone has a resume. That's
Yeah.
good. Did you have a question?
For college sports, would you put that under education or experience? Because it's not really a job, but it's not really school.
In terms of you are on a team?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily list that under, unless, let me correct this, unless it's a leadership, like
Like a captain.
Yeah, so you can definitely list that under leadership experience. So the plus with really kind of crafting your resume, being in college, you can have sections that say volunteer experience, list that. You can have a section that says leadership experience and list that. It'll be formatted just like your work experience, but it's formatted slightly different in terms of having those titles. So I would list that under the leadership experience.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
That's a good question. Any other questions?
Now you guys have resumes. You guys are building them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Do you think you can do more with design and color depending on the position that you're going for?
Absolutely.
I work with kids all the time, and so my
Yeah.
resume is pink in some sections, and it has my photo in the corner.
Right. So, I mean, again, you definitely want to align it with, again, your position that you're applying for. My sister owns her own interior design company, so her resume looks completely different than mine. She's definitely an art, major. So when you're looking at her resume, it's phenomenal. You have her picture up there and everything is so beautiful, and well, it aligns with her style aesthetic, right? Because that's what she's trying to get across to, her employers. So definitely, if you have a position in your situation, like you mentioned, education, yeah, you definitely want to align with what you're applying for sure. Yeah.
Is it true? I heard this once that when you have your resume on one side and you have skills on a bar column, I was told it's not good. You don't want to do that because it's true.
Yeah, because the main thing of that is usually it's in a template, and sometimes the templates can be hard to even pick up in the applicant tracking system. So that's the main thing. The other thing too is sometimes it'll mess up so that you have a lot of white space. The space may not be used as best as it could if you format it in a traditional format.
Right. Because that's exactly what I was going to say. Literally on most applicant tracking systems, for instance, some people use, I actually have my resume through Canva, but sometimes it won't pick it up. So it's a disservice to you because you can have phenomenal, awesome resume, but they can't upload it. So it makes it really difficult for you to be able to to sell yourself. They'll upload it and it's just all these different, you know, boxes and coding and none of which of what you wrote. So just be definitely mindful. We did go over that of the format that you have your resume on.
I know that if you download stuff in a PDF, it won't like change formatting.
That's what
Yeah.
At first I had my resume, it was like experience and skills and awards something like that on this side because it was just Google Docs that kind of put
Right.
names. And then Alice actually came to our class and was like, "Don't do that. That looks terrible." I was like, "Okay," but before that, I would like download it as a PDF and
Yeah.
it would look fine. But
I would say that's the only way that it will still be able to be processed is in a PDF. But if you still have it in a Word document and you format it with boxes, sometimes it will pick it up as an image and not actual words. So you just want to be careful of that.
Do you think regardless of what you share in English, you have to share in
It definitely depends on the industry that you're in, but most industries you don't necessarily want to include that in there. The other part of that too is you don't want to have any biases towards you unnecessarily. So when you put your image out there, that's something that you're providing to them. They didn't like go and research you on LinkedIn or look you up. That's something you're providing to them. And so you don't know what people's biases are. So I wouldn't encourage that you do that. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Well, thank you guys.
All right, thank you
Okay, hi everybody. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that Shark Tank is a Wesleyan tradition along with the Marlin Business Conference, so thank you all for attending. We look forward to the healthy competition, and we're going to announce the winners of this today, of the finalists for today that are going to be competing tomorrow at 8 a.m. And good luck to everybody. So let's get started. Group 1, come on up.
All right, everyone, let's go collect the balls. Do you guys see how time-consuming and annoying this can be? Did we get all of them?
yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, good afternoon, everyone, judges. My name is Grace McGee, and along with my team, Gretchen, Emma, Jada, Aline, and Sarah, we are all either current or former student athletes. Therefore, we all know that going to practice allows us to escape the stresses and overwhelming environment of studying in the classroom for a few hours. However, the one thing that absolutely sucks about practice is picking up all the balls around the court and the field. We are calling out to all student athletes or former student athletes, you need a sports sucker. So our team is me, I'm the CEO. We have Aline, who is our head of marketing. Emma is in charge of finance and accounting. Sarah is our operations manager. Jada is our human resources manager. And Gretchen was our, Gretchen was our editor and PowerPoint person. Now, our mission here at Sports Sucka is to provide various sports programs and athletes with an effective AI-powered device to collect balls for an easy and smooth running practice. Therefore, we also hope to improve the performance of athletes due to more time dedicated to practicing instead of shagging balls. And our product will also be reliable and sustainable for the environment.
So, like Grace said, our product is a wireless AI-powered ball collector, and our main target for this product is sports like baseball, softball, tennis, golf, or lacrosse, basically any sport that you would have where there's going to be a lot of balls laying around at one time over a big surface area. And if you look to the left of this slide over here, we have a product design of the Sport Succa, and it uses all-purpose wheels so that it can navigate different terrains like tennis courts, golf courses, or a baseball or a softball field. It has these arms here that work to corral the balls toward the center to a sort of vacuum them into the body, which is about a 3x3 body, and the balls are stored there until retrieval for later. And then also what makes the Sport Succa so unique from other products is that it is AI powered, so it operates all on its own. And also included with the purchase of a Sport Succa is a 3-year warranty. Then also what is so special about the Sport Succa is that it's actually manufactured with sustainable materials. So we work with a company called Oceanworks that actually salvages and reclaims plastic products from the Atlantic Ocean and then redistributes them. And we constructed the entire body of the Sport Succa from this plastic. And then also the AI software that powers the Sport Succa is engineered through a team of software engineers.
So this is our SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is broken up into 4 groups: strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Some of our strengths is that we have a large target market. We provide our services from the middle school level all the way to the collegiate level. And again, we are a new and upcoming product. We do have competitors, but our competitors do not have the same technology, and they only provide their services for one sport. Again, one of our strengths is one of our weaknesses. We are a new and upcoming product, so it is going to take some time for us to get our name out there. But again, with that, we have opportunities. Our opportunities, we can promote ourselves through social media, through other sports, through colleges. And then again, we have threats, and those are our well-known competitors. But again, we already have an advantage because we provide our services to lacrosse, baseball, softball, and tennis and golf. And then this is our competition. So first off, we have the P2 Shag Picker Plus and the Playmate Ball Maker. These are both handheld, and so they already don't control themselves on their own, and they're only limited to golf and tennis. The Tomo Hopper for tennis and pickleball, again, it is a machine, but you're only able to use it for tennis. And then the Tennybot is it's our biggest competitor, and our price is significantly lower than the Tennybot, and it's only used for tennis. Again, we have more variety than that.
So the price of the Sport Succa is $750, and this is because of the environmentally sustainable plastics that we use that, like Sarah mentioned, as well as the AI power to power the robot. Compared to our biggest competitor, Tennybot, our price is significantly lower, and that is because Tennybot is basically the only product on the market similar to ours, so they can set their price higher, and so we decided to create a lower price to entice more customers. We are projected to sell 25 units in the first month and then increase our sales by 5 units each month up until month 6, and we're projected to break even on month 9, year 1. And because of this, we are asking for $70,000 to cover our startup costs like rent, insurance, and equipment costs, like you can see in this table up here, as well as our startup capital costs that you can see more of, as well as our income projection, our balance sheet, and our cash flow on pages 14 through 20 on our business plan.
So based on our market analysis, our main target market will be managers, coaches, and athletic directors. The age ranges from middle to college level athletes, and while student athletes are the ones using the product, we are targeting coaches, managers, directors, because ultimately they are the ones buying the product.
Continuing with our market analysis, there are similar products on the market. However, they only have been used for one main sport, like we just saw with tennis. And our product is universal to the several sports, like baseball, softball, tennis, and lacrosse. we decided to promote our product with a website where you can find our store hours, contact information, and mission statement. You can find us on Facebook as well. With Facebook having 2.96 million active users, we thought that this would be the platform that would benefit our product the most to advertise. This platform is critical in promoting our business. And we also have our business cards, which is seen on the lower right corner, has our phone number, address, and email.
So Sharks, what makes our business so special and why should you invest in it? And like we've reiterated several times throughout this presentation today, our product is not limited to just one sport. So because of this, we have a very large target market and we can reach a lot of people with our product. Also, our company is committed to sustainability and we've constructed our product with eco-friendly materials. And then lastly, the future for Sports Succa is very bright and there's always a lot of room for improvement and upgrades, and we are working towards that every single day.
In conclusion, we are asking for $70,000 at 10% stake of our business to cover startup expenses based on when we will break even and other prices of our competitors. Thank you for listening and considering investing in our business.
Sharks, do you have any questions?
So when the thing is ball catcher, it can be used for baseball and softball, but then also tennis. How do you keep it from getting grass in it?
So the vacuum, it's not strong enough to suck the grass into it. It is only strong enough to bring the balls into it. And since the arms work to corral it towards it, it has enough power to bring those balls into the body.
I can't remember if you said it or not, but how is it powered?
It uses a battery similar to that of a car battery, almost what you would find in those little kid cars. So it is rechargeable, but it's not going to be super too heavy duty that it's going to make it too expensive.
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Leave Travel Sports, where professional coaching, training, and fun times turn into lasting lessons.
My name's Aiden, I'm the CEO of this group.
My name's Jerry, I'm Human Resources.
I'm Brent, I'm CFO.
And I'm Jason, the head of marketing.
Trent, our head of recruiting, will not be joining us today.
So our overall goal here at Leaf Sports, we want to provide the best training to our youth in the 757. And ranging from ages 9 to 18 years old, we strive to provide our youth with learning experiences as well as exposing them to the best competition here on the East Coast. So we're trying to get more sports involved in this, but right now we're starting off with soccer and lacrosse. The target market is within 300,000 kilometers within Hampton Roads. So,
So our closest competitors are 757 Select, which is a lacrosse program here in Hampton Roads, and Virginia Beach Rush Soccer. Select is coached by Coach JP Stewart. He's an NCAA lacrosse coach. Stewart is charging $850 for summer programs. And then Rush Soccer is our main competitor, as they have at least 27 competitive coaches. Some positions are not yet filled. And then their prices range from $1,200 to $2,100 based on age groups from 9 years old to 19 years old.
Okay, so we cover from late elementary school to late high school, so 9 to 18 years old. Our prices range from $650, which is youth, to $750, which is high school level. We also act as a third party for gear and such, like pads, helmets, gloves, chest pads for lacrosse, and as well as soccer. So, and then, yeah.
So our SWOT analysis, which is broken down into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of our strengths are that we are a very profitable company. We are expected to break even by month 6. We are also an up and coming competitor, so we know that we have plenty of room for growth, and as we keep getting better and better. Our weaknesses, because we know that we're new on the competitor travel sports scene. We know our reputation is going to be low, but as we keep getting better, we know that our coaches are going to show out, and that we know that they're ready to prove that they are top coaches in the area. Our opportunities, we focus on growth on and off the field. So with our athletes, we want to strive to motivate our athletes to be the best they can be in every aspect of life, not just on the field. And then our threats would be the programs 757 Select and Virginia Beach Rush Soccer Club.
So some of the future goals with our business, as Jason mentioned before, is that we would like to expand our business to more than just soccer and lacrosse. We want to include sports such as baseball, field hockey, tennis, all other sports that anyone can play. We also want to build a huge facility. It's going to cost around $5 million. It's going to have a pool, an indoor field, balconies on the first and second story for parents to watch the games indoor and outdoor. It'll have a weight room, film study rooms, and coaches' offices, which is going to be a state-of-the-art performance room for our players to get the best out of the best for their buck.
So we are asking for $200,000 with a 35% stake in our company. The reason we're asking for so much is because we need to build a turf field. A turf field costs $2.50 per square foot, and a traditional field is 110 by 60 yards. So every year after our starting year, we will make upwards of $2,000 more in profit every year. So as time goes by, the amount of time it takes for us to pay you guys back will decrease up until like 17 years from now. Yeah, and then with the other $60,000 from our asking, we will add surrounding nets, concrete beneath the turf. That way there's support, and then also fencing around it so people can watch without getting hit by balls.
Thank you. Leaf Travel. My buddy's name is Leaf, and that was kind of it. I just changed the I to an A. How do you plan on recruiting, other coaches? There's so many talent that you can pull from any high school level. Just as a matter of fact, you can pull players that can come coach. There's so many different people that can coach. It's just a matter of going and finding them, and Instagram is a great way to recruit players, and just talking to people is the best way to recruit.
So I know you said the Rush Soccer had positions that weren't filled. Why would someone sign on with you guys to coach rather than go coach with an established?
Well, just experience. Virginia Rush probably has, they do have coaches that are a lot more experienced than the coaches that we're going to be bringing on. And while that is a negative for us, we are going to train our coaches to be the best.
How many? What sports? What sport do you play?
I run track and field and cross country.
Lacrosse.
Also play lacrosse. Baseball. And then Trent plays baseball as well.
We had a soccer kid, he dropped out.
you guys researched your competition, figured out what they were charging, how they're doing it, and then kind of modeled yours better but less expensive. So I think that's great when you're starting out to just get that competitive edge. It doesn't matter, just get people in the door. You can raise prices later once they see what you have. But I think it's brilliant in the networking, getting in front of people and talking to people really is a great way.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys.
Good morning, Sharks. We are All-Star Rugs. I am the CEO, Isaiah Garris. We have Sarah right here, who's the CEO, or COO. We have Head of Marketing and HR, which is Natalia. We have Khalil, who is Head of Accounting.
So we have a location. We are at 880 North Military Highway in Norfolk, Virginia, 23502. You cannot purchase inside. So with that, we have a website. It's called allstarrugs.com. You also can contact us at 912-225-7415, and we have an email, customrugs@gmail.com. Hours of operation will be open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. through 8 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 12 p.m. through 5 p.m.
Okay, so our mission at All Star Rugs is to be a leading manufacturer of high quality rugs with a unique style and identity. It's our mission to help educate customers to help them identify the finer aspects of our rugs. So we will create, manufacture, and market inspiring rugs for individuals and provide a valuable service in the rug industry in a professional way. All Star Rugs is a one-on-one business that manufactures and designs unique style rugs. So we're bringing in a new and artistic product with reasonable prices. And our primary goal is to give people the opportunity to be creative and bring more style into their home or even their workplace.
So, our keys to success, it would be for our team to have great communication skills and for us to make sure we provide our customers with the great services that they need and demand.
As a CEO of a company, we have to take a SWOT analysis to identify our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of our strengths consist of design knowledge and our strong online presence. Customers can rely on us to be consistent and know that they're getting a good product that's also at a good deal. The weaknesses of the company we are a brick and mortar business, so it's only one place. You can't come in, it's only office hours, unless you have any questions or whatnot. We have a limited budget, and we are dependent on external suppliers. As we are a third-party seller, we're just giving them a look and the opportunity to sell their business. The opportunities we face are growing demand, the strategic partnerships, the expansion into new markets, and the threats are the rise of competition, the fluctuation with costs and expenses, and potential disruption in the supply chain.
So this would be our startup expenses throughout, like for our business licenses and stuff like that. Pricing and promoting. We'll begin our prices started roughly at $30 to $700, depending on the shape, size, and color. To help further our businesses, we'll promote our business with business cards as well as posting on social media. This will also help us find extra workers if we need help. We'll also do holiday sales to help bring more customers and shine more light onto our business. The more sales, the more we'll be able to go up and promoting and advertising for our business.
For target market and competition, our target market is mainly teens starting at the age of 16 through 19 and adults 20 through 27. We are hoping to reach at least 45% of the market by promoting and making unique rugs. Right now with our competition, we have AmericanFloorMats.com, the Apollo Box, and Banner Buzz. They're all their rugs are starting at $300 and ours start at roughly $30. So with that, we're gonna make unique rugs and create things that they don't have, starting at a lower price. And with our target market, we have right now in the generation, the rugs are trending currently on main platforms like TikTok and Instagram. A lot of people are offering different kind of rugs, different shapes and sizes. As you can see right there, it's a lot of different things that you can do with custom rugs. So we're hoping to, have that unique style.
So our goal for All Star Rugs is to provide affordable and unique style rugs to the community and citizens all across the world. We will provide a rare and creative item to our buyers to allow them to share their own designs and thoughts. All Star Rugs is a one-on-one product, so we will strive and work hard to keep our customers happy. From ordinary to extraordinary with All Star Rugs. We think the Sharks should invest in us because we have found a different way to give back to the community and allow them to express themselves and be artistic. We've brung something in our community to be able to allow people to bring just more style into their home, car, workplace, wherever they feel comfortable bringing a rug. And because we are a part of our own target market, we have a lot of knowledge on the latest trends going on in the world today. So this gives us an advantage to bring more customers in to our company. So with that being said, we are asking for $50,000 and 15% ownership, and we will break even on month 8. Thank you.
I was looking in here,
Good afternoon, Sharks. My name is Stephen Harper, and I am the CEO of BioThreads. The CDC tells us that every 34 seconds, somebody in the United States dies from cardiovascular disease. Our goal at BioThreads is to reduce this and many other statistics like it through our technology that will allow us to track important bodily functions like heart rate, circadian rhythm, blood pressure, and respiratory flow, all while providing a comfortable and discreet shirt and apparel for our users. On the left, we have our apparel. That's going to be a Pima cotton shirt, which is a material that a lot of the popular sporting brands use nowadays, such as Lululemon and a lot of other ones. It's very comfortable. And on the right is going to be our monitoring technology. It's going to be a small sensor that'll be inside the slit of the shirt in many different areas, depending on what the goal is to track. So it fits into our clothing to create a very comfortable and discreet appearance.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Luna, and I am the Human Resource Manager at BioThreads. I'm going to discuss our product and our manufacturing location. We will be located in the city of Virginia Beach in a rural area. Our location will allow easy access for shipment and delivery trucks to enter and exit. Our goal is to expand our shipping and provide. Our goal is to expand our location and provide shipping throughout the United States.
Hi, my name is Christopher West. I'm the head of marketing for BioThreads. As you can see here, a study done by Markets and Markets has predicted that our industry will grow by 18.3% compounding annual growth rate by 2026. As you can see, we are currently at $6.22 billion in the industry, and it's set to grow to up to $17 billion. Our target market, compared to our largest competitor, Whoop, is that Whoop focuses mainly on the younger generations. However, since we are a healthcare product, we focus on all age ranges from children to the elderly. We're also in charge of, our product is also meant for everyday wear for all ages, made with Pima cotton as stated earlier, as well as it comes in a variety of colors so that it fits into anybody's style. We're also working with software engineers to develop an app so that you can check your vitals as easy as looking at your phone.
So as stated before, our main material for our apparel is going to be Pima cotton. Pima cotton is one of the leading, suppliers of Pima cotton in the United States. We aim to work with them to supply the cotton for our shirts and other apparel. On the left, you see our technology that's going to be, it's going to have all of our sensors and everything in it, and that's going to be put into the shirt. You have the model on the table. That's not the size of the model, it's just scaled up a little bit to give you guys some detail. And then we'll be producing all of this with the use of commercial sewing machines per other apparel companies and everything like that. And all of that will go into making our very comfortable clothing that can track your health.
Good afternoon. I'm Production Manager at BioThreads. My name is Gabrielle Henning, and I'll be going over a SWOT analysis. Our strengths and opportunities at BioThreads follows as the only company on the market that focuses on healthcare. Like said earlier, Chris had said that Whoop focuses on fitness, we focus on healthcare. We are a healthcare-focused technology company. We aim to have accurate and consistent communication with healthcare professionals 24/7. This means that there'll be 24/7 access to all of our consultants with healthcare professionals about all of their healthcare needs. We are new to the market, of course, and will be weak in a market that is extremely active and growing up with threats such as Whoop. However, that is already an established activity monitoring company. However, with great confidence, we think that we will push through that. Thank you.
Now, as for our competition, as you can see behind me, Whoop charges $30 a month, which is $360 a year for use of their product, as well as an additional $40 to $150 per apparel piece. We are much cheaper than that, for we have a one-time purchase of $180 a unit and $60 for additional apparel options.
BioThreads would be an e-commerce company providing a completely online storefront and available through shipping across the United States.
Hello, I'm Duda, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer at BioThreads. Our pricing is going to be affordable and accessible for all people with healthcare needs. As Chris said before, we're going to be charging $180 for our units with the sensors included and $60 for our additional shirts. If you take a look at our startup expenses, you see that they add up to $52,496. And that will go towards our technology development and improvement, and also to our opening inventory. If you refer to page 12 of our business plan, you see in our projections that our profits start to be enough to pay for our expenses on month 7, and that's when we break even and start making a profit. For our sales forecast, we plan to sell 75 units for the first 2 months and increase that to 100 units for the next 3 months. By the 6th month of the company, we hope to increase that to 120 units and also start selling our additional shirts. And we also, most importantly, will decrease our production cost, which will add more profit to our company.
As for promotion, everybody knows that the key part of establishing a product in a growing market is promotion. We need to get our name out there, and we believe that the best way to get our name out there is through word of mouth, because we believe so heavily in our product that any of our clients who purchase our product will definitely share with anybody else who needs to monitor their healthcare needs and their families, friend groups, etc. And we believe that establishing a trustworthy clientele and a great company to client communication will send us way past our competitors. As well as we have social media advertising like TikTok and Instagram for the younger generations so that everybody can be included, as well as some more standard and formal methods of marketing like business cards and billboards. And the billboards we plan to change up every couple months so that it's not the same thing on the side of the road that people just continue to ignore.
So we are asking for $130,000 for 3% of our company. This will allow us to cover our startup expenses and our opening inventory all the way through month 9. This is very important for the growth of our company, as opening inventory is going to be our main source of profit. This is as stated before, this is an extremely growing industry. We're expected to grow by an immense amount by 2026. And for our target market, Vanessa, one of our lovely partners here, her brother actually lives with high blood pressure. So we came up with this idea for parents, for older adults that are at risk with heart conditions or health conditions, anything like that, that her mom could go on her app and check how her brother's blood pressure is doing. It'll save lives, it'll keep people in check, and we are very excited for this. With your help, we can become a leader in the market of healthcare technology and destroy the statistics, lowering the death rate from cardiovascular disease and other health conditions that put individuals at risk. Take control of your health with BioThreads.
How do you get the information from here to the computer?
So just like Whoop and other activity tracking software and technology like Apple Watch, everything like that, it'll be a wireless connection from the technology to the phone, and you'll be able to on the phone track heart rate, blood pressure, everything like that, just with the sensors and the technology that'll be getting that information from the body.
I know like with an Apple Watch and stuff, if it comes off your wrist, it kind of gets disconnected. How do you plan on addressing that, with it being in a sleeve? Is it tight sleeve? Is it loose?
Absolutely, yeah. So the idea for our apparel is that it's going to be a tight, slim-fitting shirt. It's going to be something to be maybe worn under a dress shirt or under another shirt, maybe sweatshirt, something like that. so that it can have that consistent contact with the skin and continually be monitoring those measurements.
Here's a question.
It is not washable. We're going to ask our users that when they do wash the shirts that they go ahead and take it out. It's going to be a very easily accessible like slit in the clothing they take it out of the clothing. That'll also be how it can charge. We're looking at about a week charge for our product, that you can use it for about a week before having to recharge it. And we'll be doing that through wireless charging, just like many other phone manufacturers, watch manufacturers, headphone manufacturers have done recently with wireless charging.
What's the estimated charge time for the week?
We're looking at about an hour to 2 hours just to charge it, and then from there, since it's more just collecting data and transmitting that data, it doesn't take a lot of charge.
Do you have different styles, like for women versus men?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to be starting with very limited styles, but we're expecting to grow in the future, expand to maybe even different types of shirts, different types of clothing. But for now, we're really focusing on that like slim fitting t-shirt, both for men and women and children.
And to piggyback off that, our product, as you see in front of you, is expected to evolve over the years of our company to fit more and more people out there. No one person is the same, and therefore we can't expect one product to be consistent among everybody. So it'll be scaled up or down based on individual and the individual's needs.
Since you are targeting more of a health aspect of it all, have you looked into trying to get into doctor's offices or anything like that to have them kind of help push your product for you?
Absolutely. So we haven't necessarily looked into that. That's definitely going to be one of our avenues, though. We know that a lot of other health products that are pushed on TV commercials, you know, watching football at night, you see all the health commercials that are coming up to kind of reach that target age group. So TV commercials are going to be a big aspect of reaching our audience, and then communicating with doctors and physicians and everything like that that could say, hey, you're at risk of heart disease. I have a product for you that can really monitor you that and keep you safe.
Which again plays into the word of mouth. When doctors and other health professionals see how amazing our product is and how life-changing it can be, they're going to aid us through word of mouth by telling their patients, hey, I think this will actually work for you, and instead of it being a business standpoint, it's a doctor to patient, hey, I believe this will actually help you.
I think it's a really good idea. And another thing, if you're targeting sort of an older health group, have you considered adding fall detection?
We have not. That is a great idea, though, to add to our technology.
Yeah, the biggest thing when it comes to developing this technology is fitting all of these sensors into a small area, because of course the larger it is, the more cumbersome it is going to be on the consumer. Thus, when it comes to a fall detector, we have to include a gyro sensor, which when we're trying to keep it small and compact, it's hard to fit that in there where it stays accurate. Because the smaller and more compact you get it, the worse the detection will be, and then suddenly an ambulance will be pulling up at your house when you just bumped into a wall in an accident.
One of our main goals is to grow and expand and allow for and develop the technology for allowing our users to detect numerous different things to where they can definitely stay up to date with their health. And so we're always looking for different ways to help our users and give them that access.
All right, great job, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, I wanted to take a second to remind everybody that the finals will be tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. So please be there a little bit earlier. Don't worry, we have coffee out there that you guys can have. And then we're just gonna give the judges a few minutes to decide who the winner is, and I will let you guys know as soon as I know. Good luck, guys. Okay, hi guys. Welcome to the second part of the Shark Tank. Professor Duffy's class will be the one that's presenting right now. Please, Team 1, will you please come to the podium? Thank you guys for participating. Thank you guys for being here.
Hello. Our business is custom candies, where we make custom chocolate bars and brand candies to provide to every customer. Our management team consists of me as the general manager. My name is Matthias Marchetti.
Mark Stefan, the store manager.
I'm Cheyenne Diaz, the financial manager.
I'm Monty Andrews, director of marketing.
I'm Soraya Monroe, director of design.
Our mission statement includes providing a unique and enjoyable experience for every customer and their visit. And we desire to provide a high quality products at affordable and reasonable prices.
For our location, we want to still stay located in the Virginia Beach area. And with starting out with just my team and I, we want to keep our hours at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's for right now.
As for our prices, we will be pricing our main candy bars at $16 per bar. And we will be selling brand candy bars alongside of our own. About this.
Our target market is preferably adults 30 to 40, preferably with children, and we would want to give them back $40,000. Our break-even point has us breaking even at around 10,000 sales, not including any brand candy sold. Here we have our assets over $218,000, and our liabilities are at around $170,000.
Our SWOT analysis has us having a very unique idea, a high demand market, and having a small store which helps us interact much better with our customers. Our weaknesses include us having very busy schedules among all of us, not much experience for any of us, and a lack of loyalty with our customers. Opportunities include room to expand and a lack of competition because of our unique idea. And threats include Frischland in Pennsylvania, who has a similar setup or candy bar creating business, and customers not knowing much about us.
For our future plans, we wish to first expand upon our inventory and selections. We hope to get more ways to enhance our customer experience and change the way we make our custom candy bars. Like, for example, we wish to collaborate with Birdsong Peanuts and add a way to include that and make our product different and custom. For number 2, we wish to expand into a chain. We hope to maybe go out further than the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area. And of course, enhance the customer experience as our main motto.
As of now, we have a 3-step marketing strategy for our smaller business. We will start with the grand opening. It will be opening on 528 Newton Road, Virginia Beach. This grand opening will be around $2,000 to $3,000. For our second step, we have our social media strategy. We'll be opening several social media pages across different platforms to promote our candy. So it's a bit of cheaper advertising for those who wish to see it. That'll be around $100 to $300 per month. And lastly, we will have local advertising on radio and television in the local areas of Norfolk and Virginia Beach around our locations. And this will be around $550 to $3,500 a month.
we are requesting $150,000 to start our business. That concludes our presentation. We are open for questions. We're thinking around 16 ounces, maybe more. Yes. If I was able to customize it and control what is in it and what it is made of, yes.
Yeah, I think that this product is great because you're selling an experience as well,
Yes,
right?
we are.
So it's just like when you go to an ice cream shop and if you pour your own ice cream, you're not gonna pay as much as if you go and they're putting everything in there and mixing it up for you. So it's like that. It's brilliant.
Is it, so I guess when you say customize it, I guess I'm confused. By customizing chocolate, what specifically?
You can make it whatever kind of chocolate you like, be it white chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and you can also add like whatever kind of ingredient or ingredients or whatever inside of it. Say you can have M&Ms inside, peanuts, as we will expand upon. Gummy bears, some people like.
Is this something like, you know, if a customer walks in and decides I want an M&M with peanuts, how quickly is that turnaround time to when they would actually receive the final product? Is it something they're gonna walk out of the store with, or is it something that they have to come in later, ship to their house?
It is planned that they will be able to walk out of the store with it in a quick manner.
I love that you guys are looking at local sources for your product and for example, is one of the popular stock, so that's one way you probably have easy in with that. Great job. Good job thinking outside of the box.
So hello Sharks, my name is Brady King. I'm Ryan McAdams.
Liam Murphy.
We are Traffic Graphics. And we are seeking $300,000 for 20% in our company. So the problem in our company is 81% of construction workers are having trouble with labor shortages. Companies need their workers to be hands-on instead of just standing there holding a sign and getting paid $40,000 a year. Distracted workers or drivers cause dozens of accidents each year, mostly resulting in flaggers being killed. So our solution, an automatic device that will direct traffic and change signs, improve the safety of workers and drivers in construction areas, save construction companies more money over time as they can get the job done quicker with more hands-on employees. So this is just a visual. So this box right here will hold a battery and a solar panel on top for backup in case the battery dies or to charge the battery. This pole right here is just the stability pole, and that up there will be the display screen where the words will be. And so how it works is it's an automated stop or slow sign, but you can change it, say something else like the road is closed or parking lot is full or just anything like that. Solar and battery powered, and timers and sensors. So the timer and sensors would be kind of what we would do down the road when you get more money and have more of an idea, get more people hands-on to kind of get that working for timers. It's very sturdy and lightweight and easy to move, so you don't need but 2 or 3 people to move it.
Our product will be both for sale and for rent to purchase. It'll cost $2,800 before taxes, and that's better for long-term usage. For renting, it can be better for short-term uses for events, schools, or concerts, and that'll be broken down between weekly, daily, and hourly prices. Right now, the construction market is, back in 2017, it was marketed at $1.5 trillion with a compound annual growth rate of 8.4%. In 2022, it valued up to $2.2 trillion, meaning a higher growth in the construction world for our product to grow and gain more money for the company. Right here is the 8.4% compound annual growth rate back from 2018 all the way calculated through to 2026 in the construction market. And the construction industry in the U.S. alone was $1.36 trillion. And as the world continues to grow and develop, and we get larger cities, bigger populations in cities, we will need more constructions and roads, bridges, and et cetera. So it will help our business grow. And our biggest competitors right now are VRMAC and the flaggers that are being hired.
So according to our research and calculations, our company is valued at around $1.5 million. And like Ryan said, that our retail price is $2,800, but our production cost is $850, which makes our our profit margin $1,950. So, so you're probably wondering what we'd use the future investment money for, and 2/3 of which is $200,000 for materials, and then a $50,000 patent, and $32,000 exporting, sorry, and $10,000 for marketing and social media, and $8,000 for a future website. Now our marketing plan, we will reach out to companies that we think that would be interested in using our product. And our main social media platform would be Twitter, but we'd also use things like Instagram and other social media platforms. And we're in the process of creating a website, also working towards getting a TV commercial. Like my colleague Ryan mentioned before, our biggest competition is VRMAC, but their cons are their products are larger and bulkier, and due to their largeness and bulkiness, that they take a crew to transport their product, but in ours, it only takes one person to bring our product to a customer company. And they're also not in the United States, so all of their products are being exported, or imported, sorry. And our future goals, we'd like to create a more friendly website for users, and we'd like to improve profit margin and improve the quality of our product from research and development. And our final goal would be to get a government contract.
All right, Shark, so $300,000 for 20%. Help us safely direct traffic by investing in traffic graphics.
Have you considered any more industry-specific marketing strategies?
Not right now. That was part of our future development.
What's keeping somebody from coming up, grabbing up, taking those money?
Well, when sitting on the road, there'll be workers in between both of them, so if somebody tries to stop and get out, there'll be workers around to keep an eye on them.
Excuse me, what about overnight? All these companies will, leave these products out there to help direct traffic while there's traffic still going on. There's nobody out there in that sense.
So that's a good question. So I guess right now what we would do is just hope, and then if there's a spot you can kind of chain it down and just have a lock on.
The screen is 2 feet by 3 feet. That's big enough for how far away distance for somebody to see.
I had not thought about that, but I was just thinking when you get close enough, you'll be able to. And we'll have signs like they have right now up ahead, but if something changes, we can change it on our head and set it up before we do something.
Who changes it?
So in the box, there will be a keyboard, so you can just lift it up and type it in.
that it?
And we all come to the result.
I think it's great. I think, just spitballing, but one really good idea to get your product out there would be the Hulk tournament and bring out all those, invite the owners of the construction companies and the government officials who are involved with the contractors. Just have your product